Alright.
Less than 30 seconds now in regulation. Could this take extra time? 16 seconds. Here's Dyal. Send it up the point, Jay Lalu. Call midget now, but Matt, 6 seconds, 5, Dalfan coming out. He gets around him, 2 seconds. He's got to do it quick. Shoot, the scores, 1 second left.
What's up, guys? We're live.
We're live.
We're live. Unfortunately, because Dick doesn't want to be here.
Oh, fuck off. Alright, it's a RSL.
Have another drink, man. Have another drink.
I honestly wish I was drinking. I wish I could drink myself into stupor.
Is it really that bad?
No. Just dealing with you, I want to get drunk and kill myself. But anyway, that's beside the
Oh,
point.
okay, that's what it is. I'm gonna need a new cover photo. I have a cover photo here, but it's got the old logo. But boom, look at that. Got a brand new logo there. Thanks
For
to
you?
Herna
Oh.
for the
Who?
Thanks to Herna.
Who the fuck is Herna?
Francisci, the guy who made the new logos for the
That's
LHL
his
and
name?
the RSL. Yes.
Alright,
Have
alright.
you been living under a rock?
I don't know, probably.
Oh my god. Well, the important thing is that this season, instead of being a Dallas circle jerk now, we get to be a
Could be
Boston,
a Boston.
circle jerk.
Ooh. It's a new team week.
We're moving
Every
up,
year.
dude. We're moving up in the world. But importantly, we're back with Dalfan too, so we can really
Yeah.
just,
Fucking let her go. Just let the circle jerk happen.
we can get crazy with it. It'll be a lot of fun. It'll be a lot of fun. We'll have to get more Boston players on too as the season goes on.
We should just get the entire team on one time and just talk
sit there
about
and
how
just-
good we are.
Yeah. Talk about how good we are when we inevitably end up last place in the league.
Oh, of course we're gonna find a tank. We are gonna be the worst team in the LHL, I'll guarantee it.
It's funny. I'm looking at the new NHL.com here. I'm watching like the Game Center. I don't know how many of you guys have seen this.
I love the game center, yeah.
The new NHL.com is just awful. I hate it.
Oh my god, what the fuck is this bullshit? What is this?
It's terrible.
Why'd they change it? It looked so good the last time.
It's all like I don't know.
White.
Yeah, I'm not a fan. I'm
Not,
just not a
you're
fan.
not a fan of white people?
No, just of the layout. Like I think they tried too hard to make it like simplistic almost, like a very like I don't know how to describe it, I guess. But anyway, I'm on the Game Center right now, right? I'm looking at has like the shooting chart and everything like that. It shows like who's on the ice right now, and for whatever reason, it's listing 2 defensemen and 4 forwards for both teams. And
Yeah,
it's
the old one did that a bit. I'd
it's
have like
duplicating forwards here. But the old one, it used to fix itself pretty quickly. This doesn't fix itself. This has said that David Krejci has been on the ice for the last 4 minutes of game time.
honestly, I wouldn't
And
doubt it. It's David Krejci.
More
I would not doubt
importantly,
it.
he's been on the ice twice. There's 2 of him on the ice. And it's
Wouldn't
been
doubt
that
it.
way for like 4 minutes. And I mean, he's a great player. I'd love to have 2 of them, don't get me wrong. But like, that's,
So you are a Boston fan in real life, though, aren't you?
I am, yes.
So are you proud to be in your Massachusetts roots?
Of course, yeah. This is my first time playing for Boston, actually, which is cool. So
It's second incarnation in the LHL. I also want to add. So.
I was really hoping to get taken by them in season 1, very first draft ever.
Now, where did you go in that draft? Let's
I
fucking
went-
step down memory lane.
4th or 5th round, I think.
You were Dial or X in that, yeah?
Yes,
You went 22nd overall to the Chicago Blackhawks.
and I think I finished 4th in scoring that season. Good times, though. Good times. We had a fun time, even though we were 1 point from last place. We had a good time. So that's all right.
Damn.
Anyway, all right. Well, should we segue over
less
to
depressing.
Well, it's not depressing. I like thinking about that. Like the LHL was an exciting time. I mean, it was messy, but it was exciting. It's fun. You never knew what was going to happen. You never knew when you were going to play every night. That
I'll
was
be
the
right
fun
back. You
part.
just keep monologuing. I'll be right back. I'll just pretend I didn't even leave. I'll be right back.
Buddy
You
left
know,
your
I
channel.
pretend he's not here all the time. I really do. Makes it a lot easier that way. Alright, so we'll take a look at the agenda. I know some people are gonna sort of probably file on a
Buddy joined
little
your
bit
Alright, I'm
late
back.
here since we didn't really have a set time for this to happen, and the LHL draft happened very, very quickly. I think it was an hour and 15 minutes, which is the fastest it's ever happened before. I was pretty stunned by that. I don't know how you felt there, Dick Dug, but
I honestly thought we did a bad job hosting because there were a lot of times where I felt like we were really awkward talking to each other. I don't know if it was just like people we had on and we just really weren't prepared. But it went really fast. I was surprised. So over in just over an hour, which was fantastic.
there was a bit of lack of chemistry with the host, and I
Mhm.
think most of that was just that like people weren't ready for when the mic was sort of going to get thrown over to them. So there was a bit
Dalphin.
of confusion there. So yeah, it's like Dalphin, when he had a moment to prepare himself, he had a nice long in-depth analysis to give. But when you put him on the spot and he wasn't ready, it was a lot tougher. So but yeah, I mean, on the whole, I thought it was good. Not quite as good as last season's draft. I think the production value on last season's draft was a bit better. It's probably my favorite one so far, uh, season 9 anyway. But nonetheless, I think it went well on our end. Not talking about like the quality of the picks or how the teams turned out. Just saying like the production of the draft. I think went well enough. I was fine with it. It's manageable. I could take it. So. Anyway, okay, so we'll take a look at the news real quick. Obviously, there's not a ton of news. The LHL draft just happened. For those of you that I don't know, maybe you live under a rock with Dick Dug and you didn't know that, but like
Fuck you.
the LHL draft did just happen. So we'll get into that in a little bit. We'll mention briefly. I don't know what in the way of discussion we'll have around it, but we'll at least mention briefly here that the RSL JSL draft is a snake draft now. It is still taking place as it stands at 5:30 tomorrow. However, I'm hearing that might change. Is that
I don't know.
possible?
I don't know.
I'm hearing it might change because the projections of who is going to be RSL eligible was very different than what the reality turned out to be. So there's a number of players that are RSL eligible that they're trying to make decisions on and hear back from to make sure that they are in fact interested in playing in the RSL. So I wouldn't be that surprised if we wound up having to push back the JSL or RSL JSL draft a bit, which would be unfortunate, obviously, because many people have been waiting a long time for this. But I think it might wind up being the right move just to make sure that everybody's on the same page, because right now things are a little bit hectic. I think it's safe to say, right?
Shit's a bit crazy. We have fucking attitudes, and then we got people who want to play, people who don't want to play, and people who shouldn't play, and people who should play. And it's fun.
It sounds fun.
It's fun.
It
It's a
does.
fun
It
time.
sounds like a fun time, and I don't envy you. That's all I'm gonna say. I don't envy you.
Do you want to swap
No,
positions?
no, you chose this. You chose this. This is your fault. So we'll also reveal 5 of the members of the NA development team tonight. We had a couple issues. For those of you who read Dalpin's post, right? We're not going to take anybody. At a minimum, we're not going to take anybody who would be a starter in the LHL. So there was obviously a couple selections tonight, like Gila Flora was one of them. I know that we really were hoping to get on the team, but he wound up being an LHL starter, so we're definitely not going to take him. Other than that, everyone else we're considering is from 5th round of the LHL draft all the way down to the last round of the JSL draft. So it could be anyone from. And if you're more curious about the specifications on who we took, we will have Dalvin in here in a little bit, and he might be able to explain some of that. But you can also find the post he made, and you will get to see some of the insight there as to why we chose who we chose. Because I'm sure there will be some commentary regarding it. Because we were quite particular on what we decided to go with, and I'm getting a Snapchat here from PK, which looks like it's not good news for me. I'm pulling up the
Are
game
you getting
center.
traded right now?
I'm pulling up the game center on the stream so people can see it here. Although it doesn't show up very well here, but looks like it's OT. Yeah, we're in OT. Whew. All right, sorry, I needed to check that real quick. I'm trying to keep up with the Bruins game too, because we've been doing some disappointing things, I guess, or maybe not
Like drafting
doing
3 disappointing
disappointing
players
things.
in a row?
Well, no, I'm saying the NHL Bruins. PK. Oh my God, PK. Don't spoil anything. Okay, sorry. I'm like trying to watch this and follow along. Anyway, yeah, we've been blowing some unfortunate leads, and it's not good. We've blown, I think, 7 2-goal leads so far this season in 50 games, which is bad. And I mean, blown leads
That's
is in
solid.
like we blew the lead and then lost the game. So, and there's another 2 or 3 games where we blew a 2-goal lead and managed to win somehow. So, yay! I'm just gonna keep drinking. Anyway, all right. So we'll take a look at the LHL draft. I don't know when the NA development team announcement is gonna come, but that'll be pretty much whenever Dalfin's ready. I think he's taking care of some things right now, and then he'll come back on in a bit. Burn, we're not going to take you on the development team, dude. I'm sorry. But
You're too bad.
yeah, you're not good enough, man. It's, you know, I'm sure you understand, Burn. So, we'll do some brief team-by-team review. Obviously, there's only so much we can review right now, other than just who's on the roster, and then we'll do some basic projections and predictions. I'd like to get opinions of different people in. I know the draft went very differently than a lot of people expected, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people who want to share an opinion on what happened. So, as I said in the post in the subreddit, I would like to invite many people, or multiple people, however you want to word it, I guess, doesn't really matter. Invite many people, multiple peoples. How do you say that
You English pretty
appropriately?
fucking well, don't you?
I
What was your
don't.
English from up in school?
I got an A, so
How?
anyway,
Did you blow
we'll
your
try
teacher?
to. Yeah, definitely, dude.
Damn.
It was a woman, so yeah.
Damn, that's hot.
But yeah, so we'll. I'm getting spammed in TeamSpeak. Anyway, so we'll try to pull some people on and get some different opinions and see how people felt about what happened, because I know there was some triggering choices.
Triggering?
And so, oh yeah, no, I know that some people are triggered by what happened. And to an extent, I don't necessarily disagree. I mean, shout out to DCAT, right?
Shout out to T-Lers, the best thing. I don't want to beam him on draft though. I don't want to beam him on stream though. That's the thing. I don't want to beam him like right here.
You don't want to BM who right here?
I don't want to beam him the last overall pick. I feel like that's what we're gonna do. I don't want to do that.
No. I mean, I'm happy for DCAT. Don't get me wrong. I'm happy for him. I don't think he deserved it yet, to be honest. I think there are other players that have been working harder and that deserve that roster spot more, and I wouldn't be too surprised to see them make a change there in that roster spot fairly quickly. But I'm gonna pull in Evcob now, actually, and we're gonna start going through the draft with Evcob.
Buddy was moved
Hey,
to
there he
channel.
is. What's up, Ev?
Hi. I mean, yeah, the draft.
Hi.
Yeah,
Yeah,
hi.
the draft happened
Yeah,
today,
the draft.
man.
You know,
Yeah, it did.
I picked some players since I was a GM.
Did you?
For the Panthers. Yeah.
I didn't expect that you were gonna pick anybody. I thought you just
I
decided.
picked actually multiple people.
I don't believe you.
I think like 7 around, something like that.
No, there's no way.
I don't know what my sig figs are on that, but I'd say 7.
I disagree. All right, so before we were gonna start going through pick by pick, so but before
Okay.
we get into that, I'll give you an opportunity here. I mean, how do you feel the draft went in general first, and then we'll ask you about your team. But how do you feel it went in general? Do you think it was a good draft?
I think the teams ended up being pretty interesting. I think it will be balanced. Uh, there were some interesting picks such as Lucic at number 7 with his attendance. Maybe he'll just like do a season 6 and just show up for every game. We don't know.
Well,
Yeah,
at
I
least
don't
if
know.
he did do that, he went at the beginning of the second round. He went in the top 7 still, and it's not like
Yeah,
anybody who went above him doesn't deserve to be where they are. So that's
true.
the one thing I will
But
point
still,
out there.
that'll
So
be a fucking
and
Taser and Lucic
the
and
difference
Claude once he gets a bit less scrubby.
in defense of Lucic there, the one thing I will say is that back then he didn't actually have anything that interfered with his schedule. It was just deciding whether or not he wanted to play the game. Now he actually has work and he physically can't be there as much. So it is legitimately an excuse, and I know he's been trying to change his work hours for a while since last season. I don't know if and or when that is going to happen, but I know he is trying at it. So Austin says, "When is the real draft?" It was a decent mock draft, but it could have been better. Yeah, that
Damn,
was actually
that's a trip.
that was a casual mock draft. We'll be doing the canon one later tonight.
Oh my god.
But yeah, so I mean, it happened, and as you said, it was interesting. Uh, it
Yeah, there were a lot of picks that not necessarily
there
like
were a lot of
surprised me.
surprises.
Like I think
Well,
no, but I think like everyone got picked at somewhere like equivalent to their skill.
what I mean by surprises is I was surprised by where some of the players went, how far some of the players fell, how high some of the players were picked. Like it wasn't necessarily the players picked that confused me as much as where they ended up going, I suppose.
Dal gets confused
Is
very
really,
easily.
I mean, DCAT kind of
I mean, at least
confused
I
me
can
there.
name the 6 RSL teams from
You want me to
last
do that right
season.
now?
So.
I'll do it right now. I'll do it right
Now that you've
now.
had a
I'll do
couple
it right
weeks
now.
to study him, like
I'll do it right now.
no, it's okay, Dick. I'm not gonna make you do that. All right. So overall, you think the draft went interesting, right? Said it was interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
like I think it's a good draft. I think everyone made good decisions.
Deal it. Sorry, did I
Yeah,
cough there?
except Toulouse maybe.
How do you feel about your team?
Well, I think as people have commented, there are a few new players, which some people think is risky, but like I'd rather have guys with more like a higher ceiling that Matt would probably be able to help them reach than have players that like I know aren't gonna be as good as like Guy or Drag or like
And
whatever else
for
I took
reference,
as a prospect.
the people you're talking
Prospect.
to, I'll hold on. I'll try to pull up your team's roster. But for reference, you are talking about Capital Skis, Guy Lafleur, and Drag, right? The 3 that you took.
Yeah, those are my little prospects.
Little baby prospects.
Nah, they're already like really good
Okay, so
players.
there's your
I
team. So
think
your team's
Matt
up
will
there on
help
the
them
stream.
like reach their full potential.
So we can take a look. So we'll be going back and forth between the draft and the stat sheet here.
Yeah.
So you're gonna have to bear with me while I scroll through every time because it's gonna get kind of annoying, but that's fine. So pretty much no trades to speak. So I thought
Oh my
that
god.
that on its own I thought was surprising too because I know there was a ton of talk before the draft started about
Yeah, I
first
had a
round
few
trades,
trade offers.
and I know PK did as well at my pick. I believe there was 3 GMs that tried to move up with him.
Yeah,
So
two tried to move up with me eventually.
that's pretty insane. That there were that many trades going on behind the scenes before the draft, and then when it actually came down to it, it was just it's nothing. Nobody.
Yeah,
Nobody traded anything other than the 2 7th rounders, which ended up
the troll trade.
netting DCAT for Washington.
Yeah, no.
But other than
I
that,
was expecting a trade for second overall, but PK is a troll.
so looking at your roster, then I'm assuming Matt is not going to play defense like he had previously wanted to.
Um, Well, we're discussing maybe like doing a rotating D between me, Matt, and Johnny. We'll like play
Well,
with
because
that a bit
Johnny
in
had
the
wanted to play up
preseason.
a little bit too, didn't
Yeah,
he? He wanted to
Johnny
play up
wanted
at
to
offense
play
a bit.
some offense, and Matt wanted to maybe try to be a bit more defensive. So we'll try that out. Maybe it worked well for the few times we did it season 4
And then
Buffalo.
you'll be able to rotate Gi, Drag, and Super in there as well to fill in here and there, and you've got yourself a pretty solid backup. I mean, other than I think Fat Scroll was generally regarded as the best goalie prospect, but Capital
Yeah.
Skis has been fantastic. So
Yeah, no,
not
I've
surprised to
liked
see
what
him
I've
get a
seen
chance.
from Capital Skis in pubs and just shooting on him in the game.
I know you
I think
had
he can
talked
be.
about getting a Fat Squirrel before.
I had, and like I kind of like both him and K-Bomb were the two goalies I were thinking of, and like finally it just ended up that K-Bomb like fit with my plans a bit better because I really wanted Lord Nugget
A
in the third
discount
round.
goalie.
I mean, every goalie is a discount goalie.
Discount
Oh,
goalie.
crumbs.
Yeah.
Well, I think he did pretty well for himself, all things considered.
Oh, thank
Um,
you.
So, I mean, the way a lot of people I think looked at it, I mean, Drag, Gi, and BG are three of the big new talented forwards that are coming into the league. I think BG actually
Yeah.
specified he was going to try to play defense this season in the OHL, so we'll see what
I think
happens
he
there. But
could succeed at that position. He
yeah,
seems to have like a good understanding of positioning.
yeah, and that was his big point, was that he thought it would be easier to break into the league in a defensive role. So I'll be
Oh,
interested to
definitely.
see how the
Like, fuck, I'm
development
a
goes for
starter
him in
in the
that aspect.
OHL on defense.
What are you trying to say there, Ev?
If I can do it, anyone can do it.
Just remember,
Yeah.
Ev, 6 overall.
Oh
Remember
my
who took
God.
you 6 overall. Don't ever forget that. I believe in you, Ev.
That's the only stupid thing I've ever seen you do.
Oh, okay.
That was a lot of fucking dumb shit. Let's be honest. With you.
Yeah, like agree to do this podcast with Dick Doug.
This was the shining moment in your entire life, Dial. Was this?
I
Oh my God.
disagree.
I
When
still
you-
think
when
the F Cup Dial podcast is a bit better.
Honestly, Dial, like when you're on your deathbed, I'll be right there beside you holding your hand, and you'd be like, "Dick Doug," and I'll be like, "Yeah, Dial," and you'd be like, "My shining moment were those podcasts I did with
He
you."
sounds kind of Indian.
I'll be like, "I know, there's some great banter," and you'd be like, "Too right," and then you'll die.
Wow.
That's how it's gonna go. I'm gonna call it
Poetic,
right
really. That's poetic.
now.
Jesus
beautiful.
Christ.
I'm gonna be disappointed now when that definitely doesn't happen.
It's happening, Dial.
Is it happening?
It's happening.
Oh my
So
god.
It's
Adal, I'm
happening.
gonna trade for you like mid-season, right?
I
Strip
mean,
drama.
you
Gonna
can
get
make an
vetoed.
attempt to. It would only be the fourth time I've been traded. Fourth. See, that number was at 1 for the first for the first 7 seasons of my career. That number was at 1. I had been traded once, and then I got traded once in season 7, once in season 8, once in season 9. Or not in season 8, did I? Season 9 and season 7. So yeah, that would be my 4th trade. So like, please don't, please don't do that to me. Now,
I mean,
now.
do you want to be on
Let's wait.
PK's
Let's
team?
wait. Let's wait. Let's see. I mean, I'm happy where I
Oh
am.
my
I do really like our team. I do really like our team. So the only
No,
reason
you're
I'd
just
want to
gonna,
leave
like,
is just
suck
because it would be
Dolphin
nice.
Dick's Doug. Dick
I mean,
Doug's
it'd be
dicks.
nice not to play with Dick Dick again.
Fuck you.
I'd be alright with
I
with
carried
ditching him
you
again.
to 2 cups.
I mean, I agree. You guys have a good team.
So yeah, I mean, I'm happy with ours. I mean, at some point we might have PK on. And we could talk with him about it, but I want to try to save the Boston analysis for then. But yeah, so I mean, you look like you got yourself a pretty good roster, and
Yeah, I'm pretty excited to see where things go.
even if things don't necessarily go well for you in the standings for some reason, you've got a great group of guys anyway that's going to be able to have a good time no matter what, I think, which is
Yeah,
important.
no, like
So
I really wanted positive people, like just to have fun, you know.
HIV positive people.
Uh, well, okay then. Okay.
Apparently not. No.
Preseason chirps.
Preseason. It's not really a chirp, I guess. I mean, if I'm saying they're HIV positive, like, how much of a chirp is that really?
I mean, okay.
Like,
okay,
everyone
Dom.
make fun
Okay,
of this
Dom.
guy. I mean, I don't. Do you view that as a chirp? I'm gonna take your stunned silence.
Are you
as
talking to
no.
me? Are you talking to me?
I was talking to Evcobb there specifically
Oh,
because
really?
he told me I
I
was
thought
chirping.
you were talking to Dick Dyal.
He told me
He's
I was
talking to me
chirping,
too.
so I want to find out if he actually believes that that's a chirp.
I mean, yeah, I could go for some pizza right now.
Some pizza.
Pizza?
You are so French Canadian.
Would you like a
Thankfully-
That's why I wanted French squirrel, dude.
Thankfully, the Bruins won in the shootout, so I'm gonna be in a
I
good
mean,
mood
we
until
got the
Dick
Winter
Doug ruins
Classic.
it. So
Until the
yeah,
Leafs
you got
beat the
the
Devils.
Winter Classic, and then you've won like a game since. So I'll
They've
take it.
won one game.
Look, fucking Carey Price carries, okay? It's in.
Yeah.
It's fucking.
Carey
He
Price
deserves-
can't score a
He
goal.
deserves MVP for this season too. To be honest with you, like
He deserves
my
MVP
God.
for every fucking.
How many games did Carey
thing he
Price play? Like
touches.
6 games?
Well, like, I don't know. Fuck.
anyway.
Maybe
All right,
more than
so
like 20 games. But...
I think DeBeezy had talked about wanting to come on, so we'll try to get him. Dick Doug, do you mind messaging him, asking him if he's ready?
fuck, I mean, sure.
All right.
Ian,
Ev,
thanks for
having me
anything
on,
else you want to talk about, man? Anything else you want to
I'm
call
good,
anyone
I'm good.
else out? You want
Nah, I think I'm good.
to? You sure?
I mean, I don't know.
You don't know. That's the problem. You're gonna
Wait, you
come
wanted
back to
DeBeezy,
me,
right?
and you're gonna come
He's
back to
offline
me,
on Steam right now. So.
and you're gonna say isn't he
He's
just in
in
TeamSpeak?
TeamSpeak.
No, I don't see him.
He's in Res. Like,
Well,
I see
his
him.
name is DABZ, and he's
Oh!
down there in
He's
the
in
Rising
Rising
Stars
Stars League.
channel.
Oh my fucking god.
Should have just done this myself. Like,
I think we should kick Dick Doug and just like let me co
My
Kick Doug?
podcast. You can't overthrow me on my podcast.
That's what you
anything's
This is
possible.
my show.
If I kick you off, that's a BOC decision, right?
Oh
Alright,
my
DeBeezy
god.
Does
wants
that mean
on.
wait, hold on? If I kick him off, that's a BOC decision because I'm BOC and I'm deciding to do that, right?
I'm BOC though too.
Does
I'm
that
gonna
mean-
decide
does
not
that
to
mean
kick
that
off.
That's all
Evcobb
isn't
can,
real.
Does that mean Evcobb can appeal my decision to get
Yeah,
rid
he
of Dick
can.
Doug?
I'm fucking
Is that
sure
how
he's
that
gonna
works?
appeal that shit.
I don't appeal.
Somebody
Oh,
bring
fuck
up
you.
somebody call the dab.
Get the
Yeah.
Got our
yeah.
first appeal. All right. Anyway, thanks for
hardcore
coming
meme.
on. Good luck to you this season. I don't know. I don't
Thanks
remember if we
to you
play
guys,
you in
too.
the preseason or not. So
I don't know.
whatever.
schedule.
We'll see you when we see you at some point.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man. We'll be jamming.
Yeah,
Alright.
we do play.
Dick
in the
Doug, I'm gonna need you to
preseason.
chill.
Last preseason game.
Okay, so we'll see you a week from tonight. Then.
8:10 on Thursday.
There we go. Week from tonight.
Yeah.
You're gonna get wrecked.
Yeah. Oh, we'll see.
HIV positive. Don't forget it.
Oh my god. I'm leaving.
Buddy left your channel.
I'm gonna say that after every goal we score in that game, if I remember to. I probably won't, but if I
Fuck,
remember
we
to.
face Washington the first game on Sunday, and then Toronto, and then we face Florida. Fuck.
Washington is a bunch of bums.
Washington.
That's my
is-
professional opinion.
They have DCats. Really, how much? Like they're gonna be pretty much DCat carrying.
DCat's a god. So.
He
All
is
right.
a god.
Is DeBeezy ready?
I'm gonna pull him in.
Buddy was moved.
Welcome
your
to the
channel.
podcast. We're live and ready.
And so we'll just get Johnny and Nova to say that Dick Dug's not a good BOC, and then we'll evict him. All right, good job,
Yeah.
guys. Oh shit, I got moved. Oh, what's up, guys?
Dank memes.
I agree
Dank
with where
memes.
that's going.
That wasn't Dick Dug. That was just a joke.
Yeah,
Okay.
this is some banter. I know.
All right, what's up, guys?
Sorry, I'm talking to someone in TeamSpeak here, lining up people to talk to for later. So how's it
I'm
going,
lining up,
DBC?
bros.
I know that things have been very messy right now for the RSL, and I'm
So,
sure that's a pain for you trying to prepare for the draft, right?
Everything's going a bit smooth in the talking, though. There's no heated arguments so far. So, we're making progress. As of now, we're going through the players. The way we're doing it is that the GMs are. We're trying to get all the GMs in, getting opinions of who they would agree to being in the draft, because the GMs are the ones picking, and if they let someone play, then they have that understanding that they might not get that player. So it's going out smooth so far, but anything can happen.
Are they considering moving back the draft date at all with all the changes to who is actually RSL eligible?
The draft is still on track as of now. It's on track for Friday. Personally, I would rather have it moved, but the problem becomes Monday is not a good day for the draft, which is the next day that we would usually pick. And now I think 4 of the 6 GMs can make it. And so the next day after that would be Wednesday, giving up any chance of a preseason because the season will start on the week after, and aligned with the LHL. As of now, it's on Friday. It's tomorrow.
Yeah, and I know they were trying to get a preseason in because already I believe the RSL/JSL season is supposed to last almost 2 weeks longer than the LHL season again.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe they're trying to cut down on how long they're going to keep delaying things because that's going to wind up with a long delay for the LHL players next season in terms of the draft. Although, I don't know, we may end up drafting before you guys are ready again, unfortunately, just because like that 2 weeks is a long time to wait for even the people that played in the finals. And then you add on the fact that for those who didn't make the playoffs, it's been another 2 weeks on top of that. That's a full month without playing. So
Something that I'm okay. I'm okay with because in turn that gives more time for the RSL to make these kind of decisions, make these analysis, and make their player lists. And the GMs have time to interview players and understand like what their availability is, whether or not they really want to play RSL and such. Because
agreed.
not everyone's available
If we
24
did
hours.
the LHL draft earlier, though, the RSL draft doesn't have to follow immediately, and that was sort of what I expected to happen this season. I didn't think that the RSL draft was going to try to take place immediately after. I was thinking they'd give themselves the weekend, but clearly that didn't wind up happening. So I don't see a reason why the LHL can't draft a little bit earlier and then give it like 4 or 5 days before the RSL draft finally commences.
I
And
agree.
that gives plenty of time. It lets the LHL start when they want to, and it lets the RSL GMs and the RSL players still get a bit of a break, but also
The
be able to figure out where they're playing, what league they're playing in, whether or not they're okay with that, all that jazz.
the issue is that the RSL is very tight on when they want to have certain, the days they want Monday and Wednesday. And I don't know. I know some of the GMs might not be in contact. I know some people are out of state, out of country on vacation. Tidge is obviously, in a completely different time zone. Not always getting track with him. But it'll definitely be a lot better if there's a little bit more time in between the two drafts because there is so much to account for.
Yeah, and there's a lot to manage tonight, especially. I mean, you're trying to go out and contact every one of those people that's RSL eligible, and I'll scroll down through here on the stream. It's everybody. I believe is supposed to be everybody from the 5th round on
Right.
is technically RSL eligible.
It-
Now I know there's
As of now,
some.
that is the determining factor is the 5th round and below, but there's some talks to move some things around because the 2 of the GMs, Ace and Guy LaFleur, were picked up in the 4th round, meaning that as per last season with Johnny Hockey, they would have to be given extra picks, and they would also be moved. Like Ace is the 8th right now; he's in the 8th pick position. Probably be moved up to the 2nd. Guy LaFleur would be moved from the I think he's the 5th. He'd be moved
And that's going to
to the
mess with
1st.
everybody's draft plans too, because now your picks aren't
Right.
even where they were initially. So, yeah,
And
it
so it's been
sounds like
the
moving
snake
it to
linear draft
Wednesday.
argument has just been figured out and rectified. So now all those draft plans have to be restarted again.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like, in my opinion, that pushing it back to Wednesday might actually be the best solution because there's a lot of things going on, especially tonight. A lot of that's going to continue into tomorrow and over the weekend as well. So realistically, anyway, so I think it might be in everyone's best interest to take a step back, reevaluate everything, and then come back on Wednesday when you can have all of the GMs there and say, okay, let's start over, let's get this done. So
If it is tomorrow, I have full confidence in the 3 boys, Dick Doug, the 3 Canadian boys, Dick Doug, Johnny, and Nova. It's been going pretty well so far. So if it is for tomorrow, I definitely think it won't be as bad as you think. Not obviously the best case scenario, but I think it'll work out.
yeah, I have faith you guys would be able to make it work. I'm not too concerned about it. I just think it would be easier for everybody to get back on the same page again because there's going to be a lot of people that are sort of shaking their head after what happened tonight. As Ev Cobb said earlier, I don't know if you were listening at that point in time, but he said the draft was interesting. That was his word he used to describe it.
Interesting. Oh,
And
yes.
yeah, I would have to
Yeah.
agree. And speaking of that draft, I'd like to get your opinion on how you think it went on the whole.
No, it's a hard feeling because you see some of the picks and you just don't understand it. But at the same time, you there's a lot more risk. Like you can see the point. You can kind of have the understanding of what the GM wants and what he was thinking. Not saying that you would agree with it, but just saying you can see where they're coming from. Like someone like Guy LaFleur he's been up and coming ever since. Like he joined with that huge wave back in the I think it was in the fall, and he was definitely a standout player immediately. He was pretty good with the puck, immediately. He just got it figured out. He played on a very poor team in the first season, so he didn't get much exposure. But this season did much better playing with Albany. I mean, Matt's obviously the kind of guy who just makes everyone around him play that much better. So for him to say he's gonna bring him up, it's definitely heartwarming. Seeing someone get picked up by one of the top players. You
And
think it could
Drag is
happen?
on
I
that
think.
team too, so I'm sure he's
And
going to get some time with Matt as well.
Drag's been a direct I think everyone saw what happened this season. He got picked up by Gabe. Gabe's as much as you dislike him, he's also one of the top players and gave Drag, sorry, a opportunity to learn something. I mean, Drag's been already a good example of that. Now just imagine what happens with Guy LaFleur if it's Matt teaching him. Other than that, uh, there's only one team that really stands out in terms of immediate doing, kind of like Philly was last season. Philly looked pretty strong last season at the beginning of the draft. I would have to say that Boston probably looks like the favorite so far, but that's based on previous, it's based on consistency. You have obviously Dial and Dick Doug who are consistent in their position. PK who's not always the most consistent goalie, but he's definitely someone to watch out for. Um, I think it'll be a very interesting season. I think Zam did very well again this season. I have to pull up the draft board. I don't think I got a link to it, but he drafted a very, very comparable team. There's Gabe. He can get the whole ego thing worked out. Gabe played very well for him. Claude is on that team, I believe.
Claude is not. Claude's on Washington. I linked you to the draft
Washington.
board there.
Okay,
Yeah, Zam's team is Gabe, Tall, Meatsail, Ace, Doucette, Marchie, and Nina. So, and he got Nina in the 7th round too. That Nina, if I scroll down, was the second to last pick in the draft, and that's one hell of a steal.
That is one hell of a steal. I'd definitely say that I would put him personally above Capital Skis, but I can see where people are coming from. FCOB likes that pick. Skis is definitely a great player. He's a bit of an attitude issue in terms of like, positive versus negative. He kind of puts a lot of him on himself. So, playing with someone like Matt on his team, he probably would have even more pressure on himself to do better, just because of all the talent on that team. But we'll see what that. No, I think Zam has a great team. Gabe and Tall Midget. Gabe's obviously probably going to be one of the top point getters on that team. But Zam's shown in the previous season that he's very good at dealing the puck. You saw with Lalu, Zam got a bunch of assists and got a bunch of goals from that team. Tall Midget definitely probably plays better, and you can attest to this. Tall Midget will probably play a lot better when he's not under the pressure of having the GM responsibility of being a GM. He'll be a bit more free to just play the way Zam wants him to play, and he'll fit in right there. Meatsil, obviously probably one of the top 2 goalies in the draft, but somehow made it all the way to I think it was 3rd round. Ace, comparable defenseman returning for Zam. Zam shows trust in him. That's good right there. Doucette's it's weird for the LHL coming from the RSL because Doucette plays so well and consistent. It's hard to like make that transfer over because it is a completely different play style. But no, that Philly team looks like it can do just as well as it has the previous 2 seasons. I wouldn't be surprised to see them in the playoffs.
The biggest thing with Doucette is that he plays 2 different roles in the LHL and the RSL. The RSL he's a forward. The LHL he plays defense. So
and goalie.
and occasionally goalie. Yeah, he's been mostly on the defense. I think he was defense season 7, goalie season 8, defense again season 9. I believe is the way that he's been going back and forth. But yeah, primarily defense in the LHL these days. So 2 entirely different roles, 2 entirely different play styles and frame of mind, both leagues. So
And then 2 more teams. Tueler's team is very that's very stressful for me if I was in that position. You have Lucic, who claims to be only making maybe 1 or 2 games a week, and then Claude Drew, I think in the sign-up said he was only making half the games. So his starting forwards, he's gonna be relying heavily on Taser, who, Taser is probably one of the most influential players besides Matt, in this league. So I mean, he can definitely help make anyone better, but can he do it all on his own without Lucic and Claude Drew? Like, what happens when they both don't show up on the same day? Because there's no, like, I don't know if he did any research on it, but it doesn't seem like they'll match up as often as he would like.
I don't know what Claude's availability is, but I do know that Lucic struggles a lot on Sundays. He can't make pretty much any Sundays, and he can make some Thursdays, but all of Tuesdays. So I'm
Oh,
not sure
uh,
what Claude's schedule is. What would concern me there beyond just the attendance is how not necessarily only how does the team play without both of them, but how does the team play with both of them? And
oh
I mean, they're
yes,
two
because as we saw with
incredible.
Dallas, sorry to cut you off, but
No, go
like
ahead.
you saw Dallas in the playoffs, like Lucic was supposed to come back and make this huge difference because he wasn't there for the first game, for the first 2 games, but it turned out just the same. Like with Lucic missing a couple days or 2 because of work,
Right back.
does that you know prove as a disadvantage because he just obviously he shows to be a player of consistency, like he needs to be playing every day to be the player he is.
And what concerns me too is that they're both goal scorers and they tend to be rather selfish players. And I don't say that necessarily as like a straight negative because there's some players that just that's how they play. That's their play style and that works for them. But generally, it doesn't work out when 2 of them are trying to play together because there tends to be just a lot of battling for the puck, and it's less about team play at that point. And that's something you can't really get away with at an LHL level and expect to succeed. So I think what we're going to have to see from them is when the 2 of them are playing together, which one of them is actually going to concede and try to be the supporting player to the other. Because unless they are willing to do that for one another, I think they're going to struggle internally with some conflicts there, where the players are going to be overly selfish, and the other forward isn't going to like that. And that's
Hmm.
what happened before when you had Lucic and Gabe together, and it's a pretty similar situation here now, where it's Lucic and Claude. So, but obviously, as you pointed out, I mean, attendance is going to play a major role as well. So, and I have to think personally, I thought their depth was the worst of any of the teams. Taylor's like used to be a very good player. I haven't seen him recently, but in
Yes.
the past seasons he's played, he hasn't really been at an LHL level anymore. So he'd have to really work towards getting back to that point.
Oh yeah,
Um,
especially when you compare him to Zam and Leafs, and yet what happens when he doesn't have his second and third round pick? All he has is there.
and to be honest, I think Tickle is in a similar situation. I think Tickle is not necessarily like a bad player or anything, but I don't know that he plays enough. And I feel like that's sort of a similar issue with T. Proper Cheese is great for a goalie, especially where you notice they didn't take a goalie in their first 4 rounds. So that basically
Mm-hmm.
either meant that T was going to
Jewelers is
G,
playing goalie.
or that they were expecting Ticklebox to play goalie, but they stole Proper Cheese late like that, and now he very likely becomes their starter, and that's great value for that pick. But again, it leaves him with some shaky backup players, and for a team that has as many attendance issues as they will with
Mm-hmm.
Lucic and Claude, I would be a little bit worried about that. But as I mentioned,
This
I think at the start of the podcast, I expect them to swap out players at the bottom of their roster. I think you'll see
right.
some free agent acquisitions for them, at least one, if not 2.
I agree. I think this looks. I mean, the same discussions, the same words are being said as to the Quebec team from last season. So I wish them better luck because it does seem like it might not go their way, but it definitely can. Like I'm not gonna. I mean, Taser and Lucic definitely,
Oh,
top
yeah, it
players in
can. I
both
mean,
positions. So
yeah, you've got arguably two of the top 3, 4, 5 at the worst players in the league on the team right there. So, and it's not like Claude
mhm,
is a slouch either. Like Claude is up there. He's a very, very talented player. So there's a lot of potential for this team. I think the ceiling
mhm,
is very high, arguably higher than any other team.
uh-huh.
But there's a lot of question marks I think that still need to be answered, and I
Hockey
think
question
they'll,
marks.
yes, hockey question marks, maybe even golf question marks if they don't make the finals. So,
Oh no.
but we'll see what happens with them. But yeah, I mean, I wish them all the luck in the world. I mean, Taze
Okay.
especially is one of my friends, so I'd love to see him succeed and have
Oh,
another chance at a cup. So
that's so cute. Well, I'd actually like to get your opinion on this. I was looking at the rosters and looking at all the teams. I feel like Edmonton might be the first one to make a trade. I don't know who they would trade with, but I feel like they have the kind of roster that it's there's a strategy there, but it might it might work out and it might not. And if it doesn't, they're going to be the first team to make that trade to change it up a little bit.
I
I don't
I
know if you
think
get your thoughts on something like that.
I think they're going to be relying on Dildozer to be a primary goal scorer for them. I mean, I think Crab looked
Oh,
at
absolutely.
what Dildo did, especially in the playoffs for Philly last season. He was, I think, about 1.9, roughly 1.9 points a game in the regular season last season, which was very good. That was
Yeah.
very good in
Oh, very
comparison to
good
most
for
players. And that's in LHL, and he did just as well in the RSL. He was on the cup-winning
very
team.
true.
He was up for MVP with his line mate Doucette. So
Should have been MVP.
he's got a lot of accolades to his name, and he even had
Well,
I believe it was 2 votes for playoff MVP in the LHL last season. So, and he did very well in the playoffs last season. He had like 10 goals, I think, second most in goals, second most in points, or something like that in the LHL playoffs
yeah.
season 9. So like the talent is there, and I think
Oh, absolutely.
a big
And mixed with Crab and Big V
oh
passing
yeah,
to him. That
those
I
are
mean,
two
Big
of the
V's a
best
returning
playmakers
player
in the game. So
right there. Yeah, I think Crab is very excited for this team. He's returning to forward for the first time in since he was GMing 2 seasons ago. Even then, he had to move back to defense a bit. So I think this team suits him very well. There's going to get a lot of. I think this team can get lots of shots on goal with Big V shooting from the blue line. Trevko obviously has that wicked backhand shot, but he can also drop back and play defense. Uh, uh, that, like I said, it's something that it looks good. Like when Crab writes it up, it looks like he got the team he wanted to some degree. And my only concern is that what if it doesn't work out just because you know, seasons change, mad things rearrange. You never know what's going to happen. So I think he might be the first one to make a trade. I could see him moving Trevko later on just because Trevko has that insane value being one of the top defensemen, having such a great offensive capability. Just in case he Dildozer doesn't come up to the task.
yeah, and they're like we're talking about Dildo. I think Fat Squirrel too needs mention. I mean, their success
Oh
this
yeah,
season is going to be predicated on how well Dildozer maintains what he was able to do last season, and how
right.
well Fat Squirrel continues to progress as a starter now. I mean, he's now a full-time LHL starter. So they're those two players and their development are really going to be huge for this team down the stretch. And
Hmm.
I don't think they have a chance of winning the cup unless those two players can really get going and at least pick
Right.
up where they left off last season,
They'll
which
definitely have a
for both of
chance
them
to.
was very good, to be fair.
Yes. Dildozer says he'll be making every single LHL game this season. I mean, if nothing else goes wrong, Fat Squirrel as well is available Tuesdays and Thursdays. Uh, they should have every opportunity to increase their skill and get better, improve their abilities. So it's definitely a team to look for. A lot of people are during the draft were writing them off, just because Crab's one of those playmaker types where you don't see the effect on the ice, but he definitely has just as much capability as some of the other top forwards. And combine that with Big V, and hopefully if Dildozer can become that, he can find the J Lalu in himself. Get that finish and get a lot of goals. Then
I
that team will
mean,
do very well.
he's in that position. Crab is doing the same thing that Sam did last season with Lalu, where I'll scroll down here to the third round so we can see where Dildozer got taken. But Crab is doing the same
Third.
thing with Lalu that Zam did, where he took him, and I think it was the third round in both situations, and said,
Yes, he was third
"I
round last
believe in
season.
him." And we saw how that turned out with Lalu, and that doesn't happen every season. Obviously, it's very rare that somebody has quite that level of a breakout performance. He was MVP and playoff MVP, deservedly so.
Yep.
So I don't know if we can expect necessarily the same type of outburst from him, but he's got the talent to do it. He's got the talent,
Yep.
and he's got the team around him to do it. Importantly too. So.
All right, nice. All right, and then the last team I haven't talked about was the Toronto Maple Leafs, captained by Mr. Leafs. And that team, I've been hearing that Briz is not going to be having the same kind of attendance you would like him to have. So for them to pick up Selfplug, it's I mean there's a bunch of goalies that they could have picked as backup. Selfplug obviously will be starting. It looks like in a skating position to begin with. Selfplug's a very he plays defense very well. He's got some good handles on the puck. I think in an on an LHL team, he might be able to come over some of the known attitude problems in terms of like handling the puck and holding it longer than he should, stuff like that. I mean, with that kind of environment, he might be able to break out of that. I mean, he'll definitely be the first backup. I don't see anyone on the team that will play goalie. Yeah, no, nobody on the team will play goalie except for Briz and Selfplug.
Yeah, Mr. U might step in that. He's done that a couple times before, but yeah, Selfplug is probably going to be their backup goalie for now, anyway. So Briz generally has pretty good attendance, so not necessarily a concern. He's going back to a team that looks very reminiscent of his season 8 team, really,
Oh yeah,
which was Dick McButts instead of Otto, and then K-Bomb instead of Briz, but he had McJabba on defense, and alongside of him he had Johnny Hockey. And that was really the first season that Johnny Hockey and McJabba had gotten a full-time starting position. And the two of them developed to be pretty great players on the whole, really. I mean, they were taken, especially McJabba, who had been sitting in a position where his career was sort of in limbo. I mean, no one was really sure what was going to happen with him in the
he
future.
did that
and,
big breakout.
Yeah, and Leafs helped resurrect his career and put him in the position he's in now, and he's back on that team, going to be playing defense for them again. And this time, instead of Johnny, who's breaking into a starting role, this time it's Selfplug, who's breaking into a starting role. So
the only thing is that that team had Dick McButts, who's not playing as much as you'd like him to, but he's definitely one of the better players. And having Otto instead of Dick McButts, I wonder what kind of influence that will have, on this kind of team where he's McJabba again. Like a lot of people would say that McJabba only did so well because of Leafs. So to see him back on Leafs team is definitely heartwarming for him, probably because he can try to return to that breakout season he had. But do you think Otto is good enough of a forward to help his team out? Because right now it looks like Leafs will be playing forward with Otto,
I think,
with
yeah,
Selfplug and Jabba on defense.
yep. I think Otto's a bit underrated actually at the moment. I think Otto is still a talented player, and if you pair him with somebody like Leafs, who's a talented player in his own right, obviously, I mean, he was the most talented in the draft, as the draft order states. Anyway, so I believe in him. I believe in his ability. I don't know that he'll be able to replicate DMB. I think that would be a little bit foolish to go that far. But I think he can emulate a lot of the things that DMB was doing. So it might not be as talented initially as that Toronto Season 8 team was, but I mean nobody really expected much from that Toronto Season 8 team, and they went on to hold first seed for the majority of the season and only dropped to second seed in the last like 2 games. So they're capable of big things. Leafs is a very good GM. He's very good at developing players too. So I think there's going to be a lot of eyes on Selfplug really too, getting called up to this role. I mean, how does he handle that? And the one concern I would have for them is that I think McJabba and Selfplug are both similar style defensemen, and that they're both defensemen that like to get up into the play, get involved,
Oh yeah,
be a
definitely.
part of
They
the
got that
offense.
scoring touch.
Yeah, and that's
They'll put a
great.
lot on Briz to come out of his net
Exactly.
a bit more.
It's gonna wind up being that those 4 players are going to be pushed up into the zone a lot, and they'll probably get some fantastic offensive possession out of it, and I'm sure they're going to score some great goals out of it too, some great team goals too, I'm sure. But what would concern me there is that if they're both pinching up a lot and you're not getting people that are rotating back immediately to cover
Mhm.
for them, you're going to wind up potentially giving some odd man chances or some 1-on-0s, some 2-on-0s. And I mean, Briz is fantastic at handling that. There are a few people that are better than him, if anyone. So you've got the right goalie in net for that for sure. But that doesn't change the fact that could be a weakness in that team. That's the weakness I see right now. So much like Edmonton, I really think uh, their success as a team is going to be predicated on McJava getting back to season 8 form and Self-Plug really filling into his starting role in the LHL.
There we go. So yeah, all those teams. If I've talked a little bit about all of them, so I'm just gonna go ahead and just like rank them a bit, like in terms of where I'm gonna think they're gonna finish in the season. I'm gonna have to give the number 6 spot. I'm gonna see. Uh, uh, it's hard to do it to him, but Toolers. I don't think Toolers will get the attendance he needs. I think he's gonna. I mean, he won't be doing horrible. And McJabba wasn't doing all that horrible in terms of points. He was still in the race until the last, I think, week of the regular season. So I think Toolers might not get the attendance he needs, and he'll fall back unless he makes some incredible trades and it works out for him. 5th place, I would have to give to. Uh, I'd give it to FCOB in Florida, the Matt team. It seems like there's not enough talent there for when Matt doesn't show up, and we obviously Matt has claimed to show up to majority of games, but his skill is above everyone else's, and everyone understands that. But people are finding ways to nullify some of his usual abilities, like getting block shots on him, forcing him to shoot from farther away, which makes it easier on the goalie to swipe at it. Making stronger plays on defense, getting better at defense, using the body instead of diving for the puck. People are getting better at these things. So Matt's dominance is slowly, not to the extreme effect, but slowly dropping in this league. So then 4th, getting the first playoff spot, I would have to put Edmonton with Crab. I think he'll be able to squeeze in there. Leafs will get 3rd. Uh, Philadelphia will get 2nd place with Gabe and Zam, and then Boston with. I mean, right now it looks like a stacked lineup. You have uh, Dalfan, who is probably one of the better goalies, who hasn't played in the last couple seasons. Dick, Doug, and Dial, who are consistent players in the forward and defense position. Kapanen, who's obviously a great player. This is reminiscent of the Dallas team from last season.
Yep, after the
PK,
draft.
who is after the draft, and of course any of these players, Dial, Dalfan, Dick, Doug, or Kapanen, they have great trade value, and uh, if PK feels like something's not working, he is in a great position to make any kind of trade he wants. And I think that's what his strength is not only he has a great team right now, but he also has a great ability to make a trade where it won't hurt his team. Like the loss he'll take on a trade is very small, I think, because for the kind of player that each one of these guys are, he can get just enough, back for them.
There we go.
And
We have
that's where
big
his
shoes to
strength is.
fill, Dick Doug. Then
Right.
we're predicted
we?
number 1 there. So
I mean, with
you
us
have
on
to
a
live up
team,
to
like,
it
can you
now.
really?
Oh my
Well,
gosh, shut up.
Big shoes. Yeah, no, I mean, on paper, it's all on paper. But then again, Dallas looked like this last season, and Dolphin still felt like he had to make some trades to move some players around. So
Some
I think,
trades. Jesus, he sold the entire farm.
well, it worked out though. That's what I'm trying to say is that like Dolphin made all those trades and still wound up in the finals. So I mean, not only does Boston look very strong right now, but they're also in a great position to make some trades, and I think that's where their their value comes in. Zam also looks like someone who can make some trades. Gabe and Tall Midget, if something doesn't work out, definitely can move some people around. I think that's one of the more important teams for a GM. If you look back to like last season for the RSL in Alaska, Alaska was a good team at the start, but then they made that trade for Doucette, and then they just got that much better.
Yeah, sometimes that's all it takes. I mean, it's not necessarily about improving in talent, but just finding a better fit for the team. So But I mean, we'll see how it goes. The preseason is going to be. There's a lot of new lineups in the sense of players that are playing together for the first time, and at least some of the players on our team have some experience playing together before. So I think that's going to help
Oh,
us
that'll
out
definitely help.
early, getting used to playing in the new team and playing with the new guys. So
I think Zam's team with Philadelphia has a bit more to overcome in terms of that. I don't know if Zam and Gabe have ever played with each other. Tall Midget. I think Tall Midget and Gabe played in Atlanta season 7 or season 8. I can't remember. Before a trade or something. Ace has played for Zam though. There's some consistency. And Meatstill, of course, who played in the season 8 finals. It'll definitely be interesting season to see. And I haven't asked anyone, or I wasn't listening to the podcast before you brought me in, but what were your guys' comments on that 4th round?
oh man,
Uh,
we
uh,
didn't directly address it. We've actually just been like the entirety of the show so far. We've just been pulling people in to get in their reactions. So initially,
oh,
my
okay.
plan was to go through the draft and sort of get our initial opinions, but there was a decent amount of people that wanted to come on, so I figured we'd just start pulling people on and
Oh,
discuss as
I've
we
been
go.
overstaying
So
my welcome.
no, it's okay. It's okay. We're not
Okay, I feel
we're
like
not
it took too
trying to
long.
push you out. It's all right. So
Well, I mean, anyways, that still like that 4th round, you kind of see a little bit of the inexperience showing there. It seems like a couple of those picks could have been delayed one more round at the very least.
I mean,
But then
the
again, you
the
you
GMs went
try
for
to
what they
like pick
wanted. I think that was really it.
right.
Is the GMs had players in mind, and they said, "I'd rather, I'd rather go for it now. I'd rather just flip the switch now, go get it now, rather than wait and risk losing them." So I think while yeah, you lost some value there potentially. I mean, obviously there's a lot that could happen there. Fatsville could be amazing. Ace was very good last season. All of the players there, Gee, D-Man, Jerry, Cap, Self Plug, they were all very good last season. But at the same time, I think each one of them still comes in with something to prove a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So, but some people do well with that. Some people do well with that situation and having that extra pressure and that motivation. So,
Right. I mean, like one for your want worked in the past. Zam last season obviously had the plan. He went for the guys he wanted, and it worked out very well for him.
yeah, true. And I looked wrong from the beginning, but yeah, we'll never know. I mean, we'll never know until we play the games. Like if we were gonna just hand out the
Obviously.
cup based on who had the best draft, then that would
All
be
right.
no
Well,
fun. So,
last thing I'll leave you guys with is who do you think DCat's gonna get dropped for?
Stu
Because
Walton.
Cat's not gonna
Walton.
get dropped.
DCat's gonna get
He's
dropped for Stu
starting.
Walton.
I mean, DCat, you're a lovely guy. You know I love you. I've talked to DCat a lot, but this is a spot that someone else from the RSL who's worked a bit more than DCat should have got. Like,
It's gonna be Stu Walton. I'm letting you know.
uh,
Yep.
I mean
So
that's like there's a lot to be said about at least being on an LHL team. Like props to DCat if he actually gets to hang out, learn some things from Taser. That's a great place to be. DCat I know wants to play defense. He's played defense in the JSL this past season. So I mean, you're getting direction straight from the top. If he shows up and puts the effort for him, this is a great opportunity for him. But you'd like to see it. You'd like to see someone else. There's a couple more defensemen there, like Tidge or Nova Star, who've put a bit more effort in. Just having a roster spot allows you the opportunity to do so much. But if DCat becomes the next great defenseman, we can all give T all that credit. We'll all just eat dirt, eat crow, eat everything because he saw it and no one else did. But we'll see what happens, boys.
all right. All right. Well, thanks for coming on, DeBeasy. We're gonna try and
Oh,
get
thank you for.
Thanks for having me.
next. But yeah, always fun to have you
Thank
on, man.
you.
And good luck in
All
the
right.
RSL draft tomorrow
Oh
or
god.
Wednesday,
Oh
whenever it
god.
happens.
Yeah, I should probably actually get back to that instead of planning. I got a lot
Yeah.
to talk.
Yeah.
Oh man. All right. See
Good
you
luck,
guys.
man.
Buddy left your channel.
Well.
Buddy was moved to
Well.
your channel.
Well. Well.
All right, who's ready for the Boston Circle Jerk? Am I right?
Here we go. It's starting. PK can finally be a part of the Circle Jerk on a podcast with us.
Oh, that
How's it
feels
going,
good, man.
PK?
Multiple ways. It's going good, I just finished watching the Bruins game. They won.
Yeah, they won in the shootout. Yeah, I saw
Yeah.
your Snapchats. I was getting a little worried there. But
Yeah.
we got
Close.
it, so it's okay. I
But,
know
hopefully that's a that shows what's gonna happen this season. We'll win in the shootout.
I don't want to go to the shootout more. I don't like
We might
that.
have to, man.
I
We
don't
might
like
have
that.
to.
I really don't. But all right, so I'm just reading
one
the
does.
chat for the first time here. So I'm sorry we didn't have the team rosters up. Initially the plan was to go through the draft, sort of like not necessarily pick by pick, but at least round by round and get like general opinions on each round. So maybe we'll do that with PK here. But I was planning on doing that and then going through the teams as a whole afterwards. So I was planning on just looking at the draft board first and then the teams. But that obviously
Alright,
didn't
we're looking at
really
the draft
work
board.
out well. So well we'll talk about the team first, I guess, since I have it up
Oh.
and people
Yeah.
want to see the rosters as we talk about the individual teams, which makes sense. I feel you there. So
I have to go back.
yeah, you have to go back because you have to remember who's on the team, right? You already forgotten.
Yeah. Who did I pick again?
None of us. Not one of us.
Alright.
There we
Probably
go.
pick
Oh
Manette or
man,
something.
Burn is talking some trash in the Bruins right now. I don't know, Burn. I don't know if I
Ooh.
like that.
Burn, like you got drafted second to last round or something like that.
Ooh, that's a low blow right there, man.
I mean, you can't fight the beast.
The
And
Boston
not
Bruins beast,
die.
right?
Yeah.
The beast of the
The
Bruins that's
beast.
probably barely gonna make the playoffs. Yeah,
Yeah.
beast then,
Hey,
dude.
hey.
On the first
Anyway.
round of the Toronto Maple Leafs to win the cup, yeah, it's gonna happen.
All right, Dick Dug. We weren't joking around here, guys. We're trying to be serious.
Leafs sweep the Bruins straight
The Leafs
four.
will not win a cup in your lifetime.
Yes, they will. Yes, they will. When
Deep down though, you're actually worried about that.
When
know
we
you
get
are.
Austin Matthews this summer,
Deep down-
we're gonna put him, Marner, and Nylander on one line, and that line is gonna carry us through the entire season, through the entire playoffs, and then we're gonna give the Conn Smythe to all three of them.
That's not how that works.
Okay.
Anyway, okay. So PK, we'll start by asking you before we talk about the draft. We'll ask you about your team since we got the roster here set up.
My team. It's our
yes,
team.
it's well
Our team.
for purposes of discussion, being objective, your team. I mean, you are the GM. You own the team. It is your roster.
We're all in this together. Man.
How do you feel about your draft specifically and how your team turned out?
I feel pretty great, actually. All the stretch picks that I didn't think I was going to get, I got. So, I mean, I couldn't ask for a better draft. On my side, anyways.
There we go.
Like, I mean, do you agree?
I
Pretty
mean,
good.
look, man, I'm not gonna tell you I'm disappointed. So, I mean, I had a good time during the draft. I'm glad we got the people we did. I think we lucked out in some senses that a lot of the guys that we took each round weren't taken already. I mean, pretty much every time we're going through the draft, and every time we get up to the next pick coming, we'd be like, all right, we want to target this player at this pick. We're like, oh, but they probably won't be available. And then we sit there and wait as the picks go by, and the pick comes and they're available. So it was weird in a sense to have that happen. So, but we lucked out, and I'm hoping that we can. I don't know if you heard, but there's apparently a decent amount of people who believe that we have the strongest team already coming out of the draft. So we got it. I was saying to Dick Dug earlier, big shoes to fill.
Yeah.
So we got to
But,
live up to
yeah,
the hype.
Yeah, if the team performs like I think it can, I mean,
We've got the ability to.
We'll do
We have the
pretty good.
talent. It's not a talent issue. If things go wrong, it's certainly not a talent issue. So
and
I think,
I feel like we're all play together very nicely. Most of
Yeah.
you guys have played together before.
yeah, we have a good understanding of how to play together. I think I've played with everybody on this team with the exception of BG and Sully, both of them being newer players anyway. So, but I'm really excited to have both of them because I'm really looking forward to helping develop those two guys. Because those are two guys that, you know, you look at them and you look at guys that are in their position as well. I don't want to say like it's just the two of them or something like that, but there's a lot of guys that are in similar positions to them that are going to be the future of this game. And I am very happy to be a part of their development and be a part of their integration into the league. So
Yeah,
I'm
like, a lot
looking
of these
forward to
players
it. It's
have a lot
awesome.
of potential.
Yeah, agreed.
Potential in these guys. They could go pretty far.
Yeah. I know the one pick I think that some people sort of questioned you on. I'm going to put you on the spot here, so be ready
Alright,
for this.
I'm
The
ready.
one pick that some people sort of questioned you on, I think, was Sully. where there was a
shucks.
handful of other goalies who were available that people have considered to be better right now than him. How do you feel about that selection? I mean, it's generally known, I think, that you're very good friends with Sully and that you believe in him.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
is it safe to say you believe that he has the best potential of any of the players that you considered at that
Oh,
spot?
yeah, for sure. In my opinion, Sully has the best potential out of anyone left on the board at that time to grow this season. I mean, there were some other great goalies out there, but I feel like by the end of the season, Sully will be able to hold his own and maybe even be better than some of them. Now,
There you go.
I didn't make that pick based on like current skill. Of
You made it
course,
on development, right?
for sure. Like
Well,
the season
he's
doesn't end today
that's true.
at all. The season
Yep.
ends like 3 months from now.
And I
And
think
in 3 months from now, I think Sully will be better.
importantly for Sully or whoever was going to take that spot, I mean, we have you on the team and we have Dalfan, who are two of the best
Mhm.
goalies to ever play the game. So I can't think of a better like pairing of players that you'd want to play behind and learn from. So this should be a really incredible experience for him in terms of what he can take away from this season. He's got a really good opportunity in front of him. So
I'm only a top 5 goalie.
maybe last season,
Did you
but
see the ranking?
in all time,
Top 5.
dude,
Top
I
5.
think those rankings are based on last season. I'm pretty sure. So, but all time, you're definitely you Dalfin, K-Bomb, Briz, like you guys are the
Yeah, we've
best
been around for a
goalies.
while.
Oh yeah, long time. So you guys are the best goalies to play the game, and I don't think there's really any contesting that at this point. So
It's always fun going from season to season because we all kind of rotate around with especially like the goalie awards and stuff, like the best goals allowed average and save percentage. Like, not many people have dominated
yeah,
in those
exactly. It
categories.
tends to go back and forth, right? Where you see some
Yeah, for
awards
sure.
like best defenseman always goes to Tays. You see MVP. I think this Lalu winning the MVP was only the 5th different person to win MVP in 9 seasons.
Yeah.
So before that, it was 4 different people between those 8 seasons. So a lot of these awards, especially in the other roles, are sort of going around to the same guys over and over again. But in the goalie position, it's really exciting, and you're getting guys like Fat Squirrel and Meat Cell too, two guys that have been developing recently that are now really starting to get legitimate chances, and they're both looking at starting positions now. Meat Cell's been doing it for a little bit longer, actually, now like 2 seasons. I think might be even his 3rd season as a full starter. So kind of crazy to think about in that sense, but yeah, it's really exciting, and it's surprising almost how well some of the goalies are developing.
But yeah, this game is very interesting. Like looking at it as a goalie, like you only can use your stick, obviously, save the puck, and there's only a few strategies that really work. Man, everyone adds their own little touch to how they play. Like no two goalies are the same, and some things work for some people, some work for others. So, I mean, when you're trying to learn from someone in the goalie position, anyways, you kind of have to like kind of see how they play, but you kind of have to go in your own direction. Because what works for me might not work for someone else. What works for Dalfan doesn't work for me. There's no right way to play goalie. There's better ways and there's worse ways. There's no best
I
way.
think there's potentially, I would say there's bad habits that you can get yourself into, but
Yeah,
not necessarily bad ways to play the position. I guess is probably the
yeah,
appropriate way to look at that.
yeah. One of the worst habits I've ever had was jumping. I used to jump around all the time, and that's just no good.
Oh my god, I just got a Snapchat of Lucic who just sent me like protein, like powdered protein, just like a jug of powdered proteins, a picture of it on Snapchat,
Oh, nice.
and the caption was, "These gains are gonna be intense."
What the?
Yeah, this is why we don't let him on the show.
Lucic?
This is why we don't let
Lucic
him
is
on the show. We're just gonna go with that.
something else.
Yeah, something else is right. Anyway,
How do
alright,
you feel,
so
Doug, about the team? I mean, I've asked. Well, Dial said something. I said something. Dick Doug hasn't really said anything.
I've just been sitting here memeing it up in the tire fire that is the RSL.
Yeah, Dick Dug's got a lot on his plate right now, trying to help figure out. I'm sure he's still actively in discussions. Am I right, Dick Dug?
Okay. uh, you're funny, but yeah.
I mean, I was being serious, so.
But,
Oh,
I
I'm literally
mean,
just sitting here twiddling my thumbs on NHL 15 right now. I haven't been messaged at all tonight.
Oh, okay. So I figured that they'd be going back and forth with you, because I know right before we started there's a lot of discussion and sort of an informal RSL meeting that was going on, because as you know,
Now
PK
I
has
had
been
to dodge out of there to do this, and now Johnny's up there in the Florida Panthers by channel by himself. Novastar is MIA, so I'm
RSL commissioner.
gonna assume it went
my
all
goodness.
together. So Peach Dick Dug, I think is gonna be the new chant on the forums.
So-
but anyway, that's enough of that.
So, how do you feel about the team then, Dick Dug?
Honestly, I'm fucking happy to be back on the team. I'm happy and I'm
Back
pumped.
on the team. Back. I'm back in
Well,
Boston.
honestly, I to be honest, I count this as like an extension of the Dallas Stars from last season. Like this whole just let me pull up the roster. Right? Actually, never mind, it's on the stream. I like the team. Dial, who's playing offense with you? That's my only question. Is it Kapanen?
Cap will be the starter, I believe, yeah, and then
Okay.
Notled will be the backup, filling in for you, Dalfang, me, Cap. He can play in any of the roles, as can Dalfang too, which kind of makes it easy
So-
to shift around.
Defense, I like me and Dolphin can get things going. Him playing lefty, me playing righty. We're both pretty offensive, though. I think we can work. I think we can work and cue off each other because we know what to do. I like Dial. You're obviously fantastic. I think Kapanen can fill in nicely. Hopefully, he does better. We know to trade him before the regular season even begins. My only question mark is PK. Is your ping still shitty or is it good? Because I know that was a problem last season.
Is my ping good? This guy?
Like, is your ping like? Is it bad? Is it good? Like, can you make a save? Can you even see the puck? Do you know what a puck is?
Can I make a save?
Do me and
Probably
do me
not.
and Dolphin have to carry you through the
Do I
entire
see the
season?
puck? Maybe. Do you and Delphin have to carry me through the entire season? Yeah.
Probably. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
At least he's
all-
honest. There we go.
yeah, honesty is the best quality in a goaltender. But anyway,
I have an Ethernet cord. I have to
damn.
wire it through my basement. And if I do that, it should get better.
Damn. All right. So there we go.
So there's hope.
I
There's
have high
hope.
There's hope. There's always hope with PK patching. But honestly, I have hope in the team. I think we can be a cup contender. I would love to be a cup contender. I think we can, and I think we will. So that's my entire take on the team.
Damn.
That's probably the most words I'll say for the next 10 minutes after this.
All right. Well, that's your decision. So
Well, I mean, you guys just kind of go off, and I just kind of sit here twiddling my
you are
thumbs, so-
you are free to interject
know
at
I am.
any
I
moment
know.
you want.
I know, I
You're-
totally been like that.
You're,
But I'm
I
sitting
mean,
here-
I will dump on your opinion as soon as
do
you
it.
say something.
You always dump
but-
my opinion. What else is new?
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm just making sure we're clarifying here.
I know. I always know
But,
what's happening. Don't worry.
Yeah, I mean, I think BZ said it when he came in before he was before you were in here, PK. There's high expectations of this team, so I think we've got sort of a lot of pressure on our shoulders to succeed and to at least contend for a cup. So
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, so we'll
Hopefully
see how it
all
goes. I
comes
mean, we have the roster for it. Like I said, we have the roster for it, and we'll see. It's really going to come down to how well we play together as a team. So.
Yep.
All right, so
No-
we'll flip over to the
Buddy
draft
joined
board
your
here,
channel.
and we'll start going. What's up, Delphin?
Oh,
How's it
another
going,
Bruins
Dolphin?
member?
I have to agree with you, Dolphin.
Delphin doesn't want to talk. But Delphin, I think your mic is muted. Talk
Or he's
real
just
quick.
dead.
What?
Oh no,
There you
he's
go.
good. He's alive. Actually,
Alright.
hold on. I'm gonna go back to that other. Let me go back to the stats view. Nope, not that. This. Nope, not that either. All right. Hold on. I'm gonna try to trick OBS. Okay, so
That's
stats
risky.
is up. Boom! Look at that. All right, so we can see a bit more of the draft board. A lot of that, I kind of cut a lot of this out because it doesn't really mean anything, which is why I tried to focus on initially just looking at the picks. But I kind of like the bigger view better. Anyway, so we're just gonna roll with it, even though it's not perfect. Sorry, not that sorry. Alright, so I want to sort of start to go through the draft, kind of not necessarily pick by pick again, but round by round, and start taking a look at who got picked where, what were some of the surprises, because we've kind of been neglecting that on the whole. We've been sort of talking about more like what the teams look like and how we believe the teams are going to do. But if we start going through round by round, I mean, I would say looking at the first round is myself, Matt, Big V, Gabe, Otto. I don't really think that there was any surprise in the way that that went.
Big V, maybe Gabe.
I mean, I had it chalked up to those guys going first round.
Yeah.
I didn't expect Big V. I thought there were a lot of question marks around Big V, it's Gabe. So
I mean, yeah, the two question marks were going to be Matt. Well, I should say three: Matt, Big V, and Lucic. And in all three cases, it's attendance. The thing with Lucic is, at least you know when he's going to be there and when he isn't. But when it comes to Matt and Big V, you're not really
it's a
sure.
crapshoot.
Big V has historically had great attendance, and realistically, it was only one season that he wasn't around a whole lot. But the problem is that was his most recent season that he played, and then immediately after that season, he took a break. That was season 9 that he took off. So there's some question marks there about what he's potentially capable of, and how much he's actually going to show up. So, but no matter what, some of these GMs were going to have to take risks because, I mean, those are players that have an incredible upside in all three cases, and Lucic went 7th overall, so I mean, basically an extension of the first round at that point. So, but yeah, I wasn't surprised by any of those 6. I wasn't really surprised by the 7th pick either. Maybe the order a little bit. I wouldn't have been that shocked to see Matt drop a little bit more. But outside of that, I thought you guys summed it up fine. I mean, I wasn't really stunned by any of that, so.
Yeah, and it was standard. I didn't expect Big V to go 4th overall. That's all.
Where did you think he was gonna go?
Maybe 7th or 8th. I didn't like. I just thought
Overall,
like,
right? Not you don't mean like
no in
you mean
rounds.
7th or
Of
8th?
course,
Okay,
I thought.
alright.
8th round.
Yeah, I thought he was going 8th round. To be honest, no. I thought he was gonna go maybe drop down to 9th almost. I thought.
Wow.
Just like I don't know I don't know if he's been in pubs a lot. I don't know if he's been talking a lot on TeamSpeak. I haven't been that active in the past couple weeks due to school, but I thought there were a lot of question marks around playing and attendance. So yeah.
Okay.
But you know, I
That's
think
fair.
he'll do
That's
good.
fair. How much do we believe Matt is actually going to show up? Dicto, do you want to go first? I mean, how much do you think he's actually going to show?
Honestly, Matt, at this point, like we've been burned so much after saying, oh yeah, he'll show up. I'll make my games. Or even the glorious. I'll make 90% of the games past this point. Plays 2 games. So we've been burned a lot by Matt. And I think
He played 5 of 9 or 6 of 9 games after that. It wasn't only 2.
so 5 or 6. Okay, but still, I think it's I'll put it down. Maybe I'll be generous and I'll say he's gonna play 60% of the games. That's what I'll say. 60%.
Generous is 60%.
I won't make a prediction, but I'm just on the whole. I'm not gonna give you like a number, but honestly, it's just you see time and time again he signs up, and some GM kind of bites on it and is willing to take that risk, culminating with the fact that you know, do you want Otto or do you want Matt 50% of games? And somebody between all the factors gets pressured into selecting Matt and hopes that he shows up, and this has happened for 2 seasons now in the past 3. Maybe is it 3 seasons in the past 4? I'm not sure.
He didn't play season.
Yeah, I know he skipped one.
Season 7. It was season 7 he didn't play. He played
So
6,
then,
not 7, and then 8 and 9.
So I mean, he hasn't played a full season since season 5, and now we're at season 10, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, granted, that's only we're not through season 10 yet, so that's only 4 seasons, and they sat out 2 of them, I think, or maybe he sat out just 1 and played 3.
Yeah, he sat out one of
6.
those. He sat out one of the last 4 and played in 3.
So season 7.
He sat out.
He wasn't here. He wasn't here season 7 either, though. Season 6, where was he?
Season 6, he was here. He was on New York. That was his highest attendance of any.
Yeah, New York and Hartford.
Team, I believe.
and he didn't make it for the playoffs either. So I mean, that's season 6. Season 8, he comes back and Byrne takes a chance on him and it doesn't pan out. And then season 9, McJava takes a chance on him and it doesn't pan out either. And now we're at season 10 and it looks like it might be happening again. It's just kind of like, you know, he's a great player and I think the league is better with him in it, but it's just kind of getting old. And I'm not saying that we should do anything like the league should do anything about it, but I just mean as a GM or a teammate, it's just kind of a drag.
Yeah.
And it's not something that I can honestly predict that he's going to suddenly have better attendance. When I have nothing over the past almost year to indicate that.
His career attendance rate in 5v5 is just under 46%. So he's made 46% of the games that he was capable of making, I guess. So that excludes season 7 where he didn't play. So
right. I mean, that's a nice stat that you've got there. But it's I mean, it's pretty fierce.
It's very, very low.
And when it's coupled by like it's one thing when you say. I mean, last season he almost disappeared for the entire beginning of the season. It's just kind of like that's a long time to disappear. And then when you actually show up, you don't really want to be on the team. But disregarding all of that, I'll just say that you hope that you pick him and you hope that he'll show up for playoffs, but then you didn't even get that much in season 6. You got 50-50, and I think that was there was something very specific that he had like work or he had something very specific that he was doing, but
I think it was hockey. But yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I mean that's one example, but at the same time it is objectively the guy, you know, you hope that he'll at least make playoffs like he did in season 4, for example. Season 4, that's another season where he was absent for a large majority of the regular season, and if you draft him, you've got to find a way to be successful in the regular season and make it into the playoffs without having any product from your first round pick. I mean, it's hard. But like I don't want to talk about I don't want to get into start dissecting Matt's personal life, but he's had some changes now, so I don't know how I don't know if that might have a positive impact on his attendance now in hockey ? But if your stance on that,
I think I know for a fact that there have been significant changes in his personal life that will allow him to make more games now. I know that because I'm good friends with him and I speak with him regularly beyond just hockey. So I understand sort of what's not going on anymore that's going to allow him to show up more. But obviously his word at this point in time means almost nothing now. I mean, he could sit there and swear all he wants that he's going to make a bunch of games, but it's hard to believe him. And you look at that 46% attendance rate since season 6, and that's really atrocious. And I don't think it would get much better if you included season 2, 3, 4, or 5, which were the other 4 seasons.
I think it might get worse, to be honest.
I don't think it would get worse. His attendance wasn't that bad. I don't believe he was ever below 50% attendance in those 4 seasons, in any of those seasons individually. So, I mean, I played with him for 2 of them, so he was definitely not under 50% for either of those. So, but ever since then, he's really struggled, and to have an average that's below 50% is scary. So, but that said, I do believe that he will make more games, and I was concerned that he was going to wind up dropping far in the draft because of his history. But I do believe that he's going to make at least 2/3 of the games this season. I think you're looking at 2/3, 66, 70%, somewhere around there. Potentially even 3/4 of the games.
But to continue on the trend of Dolphin, how many seasons have you been saying, oh, I think he's going to make X? And then he's not made close to that.
I would say, yeah, I mean, you're right. You're right. I defend him a lot, and I mean, I'm obviously biased towards him because he's my friend and because I believe in him. So I guess the reason why I believe it now more than I probably did in the past is just that I know what's changed for him. Without getting into detail about his personal life, I don't want to do that on the stream, but there were things in the past that took a lot of time away from what he was able to do regularly, and they weren't exactly predictable occurrences. Whereas now he doesn't have to deal with that anymore for the time being. So I have no reason to believe that he would show up at below 50%. I really don't think he's going to show up below 2/3. So
Yeah, and I mean, like that's probably true, but at the same time, if he makes 2/3 of games, that's only approximately 10% better than his average. And I mean, so maybe that speaks to how 50% isn't that bad of a number, or maybe it, I don't know. It just seems like he's been under average for so long that you'd ask him to, you'd expect him to have a season where, hey, he maybe makes 23 games, or makes something like almost every game, like pretty much everyone else, or like a large majority of LHL players do. So I mean, I don't know what I'm asking for necessarily, but it's just like
I would say average attendance rate is usually about 75 to 80%. So he's about 20-25% below that, at least, if not 30% below that.
yeah, and
Below
I
like what
mean,
an average LHL player's attendance rate looks like. So that's pretty significant. His attendance is almost half of what a typical LHL player is.
And I mean, there's a way you could analytically determine what kind of an impact he has, percentage of chance of your team winning when he's there, and then you subtract that by the percentage of games that he's going to miss altogether. Determine if, on the whole, selecting him still makes you win more games than drafting some other high caliber forward like Claude Giroux or like even Big V or something like that. You could statistically figure it out. I'm not sure exactly how you determine percentage of winning, but you could look at like his winning percentage and in games that he participated in, his winning percentage, and it's got to be something like 80 or 90%.
Oh yeah,
It's
it's
really
very high.
remarkable.
It's astronomically high. He wins almost every game he plays in.
Yeah, I mean, I remember last season we had won one against him, and it was like, it was a really big feat. Like we were really proud of that, but that might have spoken more to the team that he was playing on than us. But when you lose with Matt on your team, like you gotta check some stuff out. But so if he makes 66% of games, that's enough, coupled with the fact that he's an incredible player, that he's going to carry his weight, and that team will probably still make the playoffs. But I think as a GM, when you draft Matt, you have to take necessary steps to find players who have very good attendance, find players who are eager to play the game, eager to step into starting positions, and capable of filling those positions when he's not there. And I think Evcobb has adequately addressed that by picking up Guy Lafleur, who will be a starter on that team, but also Drag, and also Capital Skis, and then Super Hawkloo. I'm not sure about his attendance, but he's at least an active person that you could slot in there, and he's taking necessary steps to make sure that that he'll be at least okay. But the problem is you're relying on Guy Lafleur and Drag to find some offense when Matt's not there, which I think that they can do. But it's gonna be tougher when Matt's not there. But I think Evcobb has done what McJaba didn't do last season. McJaba made a huge mistake not in drafting Matt. He made a mistake in the steps in the people he selected in the late rounds, and in the second, or rather, in the second and the third and the fourth, he didn't pick guys that were going to be there every time. Johnny Hockey for Evcobb is a guy that's going to be there for all 25 or 24 games. K-Bomb is a guy that's going to make a lot of games, except for when the Flyers are playing, and he's got tickets. So and Guy Lafleur is an eager guy to step in. Same with Drag, and so I think he's done what he needs to do in order to have a successful season with an iffy Matt.
Dick, any final thoughts or PK?
No, I'm gonna have to agree with Dolphin on like the drafting. I think I highly agree with him when he talked about the about drafting. I like you have to if you're gonna draft Matt, you have to account for the fact that he might not show up. And actually, that's right. Not that he might not, that he probably won't show up for most of the games, and you have to build a team that can survive without that, and that's extremely hard, especially when your first round pick goes to a guy who you can't say 100% who's that he's gonna show up. You have to build around players who, as Alvin said, are gonna be there every night, in and out, and can soldier through it. Yeah, that's just I agree with him.
PK?
I have nothing else to say really. Said it all.
Okay. Alright. So there we go. Lucci's just trying to say it's season 6 all over again. Oh my goodness.
I think he had better attendance in season 6, didn't he?
Yeah, he had perfect attendance season 6, which he could still technically have. It really just depends on what happens with his work schedule. And I mean, I hope for his sake his work schedule gets changed because his team is going to need him.
I think Sammy might have a better playing skill than Tealers does have right now, but that's just
So continuing off with Lucic, we'll take a look at the second round since he was the second or first pick in the second round. Any surprises for you guys here in the second round? We had Lucic going to Washington, Dalfin obviously to Boston, K-Bomb over to Florida, we touched on briefly there, Trev Crow to Edmonton, Tall to Philly, and Briz to Toronto. PK, we'll start with you.
Alright. Well, what are you looking for? How the second round went?
Yeah, I mean, were there any surprises for you?
I mean, not really. I mean, it was a toss-up if the goalies would go that round. But two of them did, K-Bomb and Briz. Nothing surprised me too much. I mean, Tall Midget only can make 2 games a week, I think.
Yeah, he
So-
has trouble on Sundays. So I was a little surprised to see him go here. I thought he
Yeah.
was going to be a third rounder, given that
Me as well.
he's only making 2 out of 3. But
I think that was only the only big surprise for me, anyways. Pro, yeah, that's about right. I mean, maybe he could go a little later than that.
I think he's a
But-
very talented defenseman, and Del
Yeah,
Big
yeah.
and I have all played with him in the past. And I mean, you and I spoke about it before the draft too, about the possibility of taking someone like Trevko, and I think he's a fantastic player. And I think he was fine where he went. I think any higher probably would have been a bit of an overdraft, and I would have been surprised to see him fall out of the second round. I think late second round was
Yeah.
about where I thought he was going to go, and that's what happened. I could have potentially seen early third round. I think. So
Yeah. Besides Tall Midget, I think everyone went where I expected them to.
Delph?
yeah. I don't really understand the tall midget pick, especially when Claude Giroux is still on the board. I mean, Claude is almost an adult now. Like, he doesn't have the attitude issues that he did in season 1 or season 2, I guess. It's just not there anymore, and I don't see the reasoning for him to fall to the third round, especially when instead you're willing to take a guy who's not practiced, he's not still in game ready shape, and he's only going to be making 66% of the games max. So we get back to that 66% of the games, but Tall Midget is not the dynamic player that Matt is, and he's not going to be able to have that astronomically high win percentage. And I think objectively, Claude is a better forward than Tall Midget. Tall's a lot better defensively, I'll say that much, but I don't really see why you'd go with that. Maybe it's just that kind of fact that you don't want to take Gabe and Claude on the same team. Like, that's just it's 2 very volatile
Well, it's
attitudes
conflicting
that-
play styles. I mean, even on the ice too. You're looking at 2 players who play the same way. Like, they both are typically the goal scorers for their team. That's just how they play. So, and the 2 of them sort of went through that experiment together season 6 in the beginning of 5v5. Gabe actually drafted Claude to be starting forward alongside of him. and that turned out to be quite messy for them. I mean, it was a change was made almost immediately. Dick, you were on the team. I don't know if you were on it when Claude was there, but that was something that they pretty quickly
What
said.
team?
Season 6, New York,
Oh yeah.
where they initially had Claude and Gabe on the team.
Yeah, that didn't work out well.
Yeah, so I think there is certainly a chance that you wind up seeing something similar if they had taken Claude. So that would definitely be my guess as to why they chose Tall, because Tall is a supporting forward and not a carry forward like Gabe.
Yeah, but at the same time, instead you take 2 centermen. So there's some conflicts no matter. And it's going to be interesting to see. Tall will not take kindly to Gabe requesting to be the center. I can tell you that much right now. So if Tull's not winning the faceoffs adequately, he's not going to be very happy if he gets kicked out of the draw because Gabe wants to take him instead. And I don't know. I don't know that that's going to be much better. I'd feel more comfortable working with Claude and Gabe rather than Gabe and Tull, which just sounds weird, I guess. But to me, I see more benefits there. But Zam doesn't see it that way, and so he takes Gabe and Tull instead. And I don't know. I just don't like how it falls and then ends up with you have a team now that is Taser, Lucic, and Claude. It's kind of scary for other teams in the league. So you see that change and you see that decision and you see the change on the parity of the league a bit. But
the one thing I would point out is that the same concern I brought up, I think, with Gabe and Claude, you wind up looking at the same thing with Lucic and Claude, where you really have to one of them has to concede. One of them has to concede to the other. They both can't be the primary forward. That's just not how that's going to work. They're not going to be able to enjoy long-term success as a team if that's how that's going to happen. So one of them is going to have to concede to the other and take not necessarily like a secondary role, but a supplementary role, and not be the center of attention for the team's offense. And
yes, someone's got to be the bottom.
Yeah, someone has to. Maybe maybe it changes during the season. Maybe they try to just support each other. I mean, there's a lot of potential for what could happen there. But I feel like that is a roadblock that they're going to have to get over as a team, and that comes beyond just the mention of attendance issues for both of their forwards. So. Dick, thoughts on the second round?
Oh, second round was pretty good. Dolphin, not good. Lucic, good pick. K-Bomb, that was good. Started the goalie, Charlie Briz going a bit better. Trev Crow, I thought was a bit high, though I think it'll still be a good pick for Crab. Tall Midget, that's, as everyone's pointed out, it's going to be tough. I think we're going to see a trade. I think it's going to be a Gabe or Tall leaving. I don't think you can change the situation. I think they're going to be conflicting personalities. I think we will see a trade that involves either Gabe or Tall. I'll even bet on it now that one of them is not going to be on the team at the end of the season. Whether that be both of them go or one of them go, I think it's, Gabe will not be a good personality with Tall Midget. Other than that, I thought it was a good second round.
That's a pretty good analysis. What are your thoughts on not being in the second round?
I mean, I know, honestly, my attendance in the winter, like, if you go back and you look at every single LHL season that happened during the wintertime, I'm always drafted very low because my attendance is shit. But I made it clear in my sign-up that my attendance is going to get better. My playoffs start sometime Monday, so I'm going to be done by about maybe mid to end of February. And the LHL season's going to be what, like a couple weeks into that by time. So I'll be here for the latter half of the season. Yes, I'll be 2. So 2 weeks into the season, I'll be back up and running. And plus, I'm not going camping until like June. So I really won't have any problems with attendance. So I'm happy to go in the third round. 14th overall is fine. I mean, yeah, that's fine. I don't care.
He says that now, but we'll revisit this at some point later on during the season, and I'm sure he'll have a different opinion.
Yeah, I'm just gonna ride on these bragging rights for a little while. This is nice.
Yeah, Dick, how's it feel to be the second best defenseman on the team?
We'll see who has the best plus
Oh.
minus at the playoffs at the end of this.
Oh yeah, you're gonna press 0 and then watch us get scored on and then go, damn, damn, we got a better
Damn.
plus minus.
I'll have to go get dinner, by the way. Hold on.
Oh my god.
Oh,
You can't handle it.
We're
Any
gonna deal with this
excuses?
guy.
No,
I'm not ready for this.
I'm
it's
just
an
gonna trade
inside
him.
joke from season 8 of the finals. We were winning, and we were winning fairly well, or at least we were all playing pretty well, and so we were about to sweep. I guess it was in the finals. We were
Yeah, it was
like
game
up
4 of
3.
the finals.
Game
And we
4,
were about to win.
we were up 1-0.
And Dick Duck decides that since we were winning so much, he'll just step away and go grab like he needed to go downstairs to grab his dinner from his dad and then come back upstairs. Like as
It's
if he
gone like
couldn't
a
just
minute.
as if his dad couldn't like put it down on the table and then have him like have him grab it off the table. Like there needed to be the intimate hand to hand like handoff. I don't get it.
I was
Didn't we
gone
get
for a
didn't
minute.
we
You
get
guys
scored
couldn't
on
hold a
twice
shut
while
in.
he was gone?
No, it was 1 goal. It was 1 goal. That's
Thought it
why
was
he.
twice.
It was
Well, I turned
once.
it over and then he hit the post. I stepped on the ice, fumbled the puck because I was coming in cold. I hadn't played like since the beginning of playoffs, because I was just full on coaching. So I come on the ice, whiff on a puck, immediately hits the post, and then we give up a goal. On I think he beat me wide or something. Dick Duck comes back and he's like, "Oh jeez." Like, he has the nerve to say, "Oh jeez."
Oh my
What did
goodness.
you expect me to do? Oh,
Alright,
yippee!
so-
You guys couldn't hold a 1 goal lead while I was gone for half a minute.
We'll stay with Dick Dug and go to the third round where he was taken. Dick Dug, thoughts on the third round? We had
Highlight of the
Clyde-
third round.
we had-
14th pick.
Excuse me.
Obviously,
Excuse
but
me.
no.
Excuse me.
Alright, I'm
Not
sorry. I
done.
apologize. I
We had
apologize.
Clyde going to Washington.
Woof,
Dick Dug, unfortunately to us,
Damn.
should have got Johnny instead. Johnny Lord Nugget to Florida, 15. Dildozer to Edmonton at 16. Meat Flail as his name this season, not Meat Sale, it's Meat Flail. To Philadelphia at 17, and then McJava to Toronto at 18. So Dick Dug, you may speak now.
Yeah, alright, so 14th overall, Claude Giroux. That's a bit of a steal for T. 14th overall, obviously the best pick of the draft, myself. Lord Nugget, Johnny Hockey, yeah, I could see him going for 15th overall. Dildo, that's a good pick. Meat Flail, I don't get the name change, but that's a nice pick for Philadelphia, bringing back the goaltender. And McJaba, yeah, I don't think we're going to see a 36-point season again. I think 19, where he did last season, is comfortable. That's a good defenseman rating. But, yeah, the third round was pretty safe for all teams considered. No real danger picks. Yeah, I thought it was all pretty good.
Yeah, I thought the first and the fourth round, as we'll get to, was really the place where we saw some people taking chances, and by the chances I mean taking a chance in quotes on players like Matt and Gabe and sort of Matt and Big V and betting on their attendance. And we'll get to the fourth round where I think that was the start of where things got to be not necessarily strange but unexpected, I would say. But yeah, the third round I thought was still fairly straightforward. Obviously, Claude we talked about falling all the way to the third round. That was a surprise. I thought he was somebody who could potentially have gone as high as late first round. And to see him slip all the way, like Dalf, you said it in the draft, to see him slip all the way another 6, 7, 8 picks down to the beginning of the third round is surprising, especially for a guy who's coming off a 40-point season. You know? So, and he's one of the few goal scorers that was left on the board in terms of somebody who can really carry the brunt of the offense for the team.
Carry the load, as it were.
Yeah, and so I think you kind of have to look at especially the pick by Zam and Crab. I mean, both of them, two GMs that have had him on their team before, have played with him before. Both of them passed over him. So that to me kind of says something that maybe there's cause for concern there. I think it was DeBeasy who mentioned that he's actually going to have some significant attendance issues this season, and I didn't read that in his sign up, but if that is true, it would explain why he did fall as far as he did. Outside of that, I thought the only other one that was maybe not a surprise, but I think again unexpected. I didn't think he'd go quite this high. I expected Dildozer to be a starter, but I expected somebody to go for him in the 4th round and not the 3rd round. Dildozer is in the very same spot. I said it earlier. Dick, you were here. PK and Delph weren't. Dildozer and Crab are in the exact same spot that J Lalu and Zam were in last season. Taken in the 3rd round, I think almost at the exact same pick. It's very close. It was like 14th or 15th or something like that. Middle-ish of the 3rd round. And J Lalu went off and ended up being MVP and playoff MVP. So, and it feels very similar here with what Crab is trying to do with Dildo. And he's building off of the success that Dildo enjoyed last season, playing on a very talented team in Philly, where he was able to get a lot of points, even though he only made like half the games. He wound up, I think, on the top 10 performers. I think he was like 8th or something, 8th or 9th or something like that on top 10 performers, despite only making like half the games, which is pretty impressive. And then in the playoffs, he was number 2 in goals and points. He may have even been number 1 in goals. Like, he was doing a lot of work for that team. And I mean, Dalphin, you get to see it firsthand. He was scoring two very shallow angle goals, especially. I think it was game 3 of the finals.
I don't want to talk about it.
2 ridiculously shallow goals. So the talent is there.
They were bad. They were bad.
The talent is there. I don't know about the consistency, and the attendance has always been a question for him. So, but I mean, he's set up with Crab and Big V, and there aren't really very many like excellent playmakers in this league, and if there are any, those 2 would be right up there at the top of the list. So I think he's in a very good position. He's set up to succeed, not necessarily in a position that someone else might be in, overdrafting somebody, where a lot of the times you're setting that player up for failure. But here, I think he's set up to succeed. I think he's in a good spot. He's got a good team around him, and I think he can do well. I think he can do what they expect him to do, but I think they could have gotten him potentially in the 4th round, although I say that, I don't know. Crab's late 4th round, so he was kind of forced into overdrafting him there if that's who he wanted to go with. Dalf?
That was exactly what I was gonna hit on, was the location of Dildozer and where he ended up going. And it's like, you look at it and you say you need a forward, so you're gonna pick a forward. Your options are basically down to Kapanen, Dildozer, or you take McJava and try and make him into a forward. I mean, that's basically your options if you want to be clear. And the decision that he made was basically, he says that he thinks he has a better chance with Dildozer than Kapanen, and it's kind of eerily similar of last season when it was Zam at the pick, and he had the decision of J Lalu or Kapanen. And I remember being right behind him as GM, and I had the pick right after him, and I really wanted Kapanen. And that was because Kapanen had just come off that really successful season, or at least he was one season removed from a really successful season with Atlanta, and I thought that he was had some serious value and was a great guy to round out a roster. And I really wanted Kapanen, and I was hoping, but I knew I wasn't going to get him. I knew I was going to get stuck with J Lalu, and this is exactly how I was thinking about it. And I remember I was talking to you, Dial, and you said nope, Zam's taking J Lalu, and I was just kind of like, wow, what a dumb decision. And it's kind of funny now to talk about it, and that was exactly what my perspective was on it at the time, and it turned out to be the best decision Zam's made as a GM right there, was deciding J Lalu over Kapanen, and now so Crab's in a position, and Dial, you kind of hit on it, was that it's kind of similar, but the big difference is your options are J Lalu or Kapanen, and he chose J Lalu, and it was a great decision. His option was Dildozer or Kapanen. He chose Dildozer, and it remains to be seen. But I don't think it's quite a parallel to where they're fairly different players. You have a very different environment. But Crab and Big V are both excellent passers. Trev Crow has a great backhand, and he can do a breakout pass as well. So he is in a position where he's going to be finishing a lot of stuff. He's going to be set up a lot of the time, and it's going to be on him to to make sure that he finishes the pucks. And so he is in a position to have a very offensively strong season. I don't know how much. I'm not sure how many other team is actually going to perform, but at least him as an individual is going to be the goal scorer for that team, similarly to what Jay Lawley was. So it's kind of a similar thing, and Kapanen is being passed over frequently for up and comers, and it's going to be interesting to see how that goes. If it's going to be the same thing, or if Crab's going to look back and say, "Damn, I wish I had picked Kapanen." I don't know how it's going to go, but that's the only thing that I would have changed. Like I said, I thought Claude should have been in the second round, but if that attendance issue is true, then that explains it. And yeah, there's no one really else that I would challenge there. I mean, you take McJaba over D-Man Jerry because you think McJaba has more potential, whereas D-Man isn't going to be that top defenseman for you. He's not going to be that offensive defenseman for you. He's only going to be a support defenseman. And if you don't have a defenseman, as Leafs didn't at that time, he's got to take McJaba there. He can't take a support defenseman. He has to get that guy who can actually, even though D-Man Jerry, I think, can come in and be a better player right away than McJaba. McJaba has the more potential to improve as the season went on, like he did in season 8 for Toronto, and end up being the more skilled player by the end of the season. So he makes that decision, and I think it was a good one. But yeah, just two big decisions by general managers in the third round that ended up giving teams in the fourth round a bit of an extra leeway, which I know Boston was thrilled to get their hands on Kapanen in the fourth round, which is really strange.
Yeah,
That's
we
my
were
soapbox.
sitting there waiting, trying to decide what was going to happen because we pretty much needed a forward at that point in time. And there was still the potential of having you move to offense instead. And that wasn't something we had really discussed. But had the best player available at that pick been a defenseman, then maybe it's something we would have actually considered. But I think we were very fortunate to have Kapanen fall to us. I think the more I sit there and think about it, I think the reason why Crab probably went with Dildo is because I think Dildo is a better pure goal scorer than Kapanen is, and that's really what that team needed. Like Crab and Big B can set anybody up over and over again, but they really need somebody who's going to be able to just put the goals home over and over consistently. And I think Dildo is a very good goal scorer. I mean, that's his strength, arguably. I would say anyway, is his ability to nip some Genos. So
After that meme, I'm gonna have to say I have to go, guys. So
yeah, Delph had to leave too apparently. So but yeah, to phrase it as Matt would say, nip and Genos. But yeah, so I understand from that perspective. I think now, and my guess would be that Crab looked at it that way and said, you know, okay, like I can go the route of getting Kapanen and getting essentially 3 supporting forwards, because it's really what Big B, Crab, and Cap all sort of fill that role. Or you could go with a goal scorer at that point in time, and I think that's what he chose to do. And I don't really think it was a slight at Kapanen so much as it was just going to serve as a potentially better fit for the team in the long run. PK?
Yeah.
Third round? Right?
Yes, third round, yeah.
Well, Dick Doug was picked a little high, I think.
Damn.
But
we should have let him slide to the fourth round.
Probably.
Yeah. Besides that, Dildozer, in my opinion, he did get picked a little bit early. I mean, there's hype surrounding him like last season, so I knew he was gonna get picked earlier than I thought. And if Crab really wanted him, he would have had to pick him there. So I can't really blame him for that. He wanted a guy and he got him. He might have gave up a little more potential.
Yeah, and
a little more skill, but
as we said, I think all of us pretty much agree that Dildo probably wasn't going to be available at the 22nd pick overall, 6 picks later. There was a very decent chance that he would not have made it there. Although I suppose when you look at it, right, there are 2 teams that took a forward in that time, and those 2 teams were ourselves, Boston, and Florida. So those are the two teams that he really would have risked losing Dildo to. And I know we had considered him. He was definitely on our board. So
Definitely. And
Yeah, but if you take someone else there and you take Dildo in the 4th round, he magically falls to you, then you don't have a goaltender.
that's true.
Yep.
Well, in that case, I mean, who do you think they would have chosen outside of that? Because that's really what they needed at that point in time. They had a defenseman in Trev Crow that was going to be not necessarily stay at home, but that's your rock that you're building around in the back end. Big V is very likely going to play defense for that team and come up on offense a lot to contribute to the play. And then Krabs in the offensive zone setting up the other forward. But that's just it. They didn't have that other forward yet, and they didn't have a goalie. So they're at the position where they were forced to either get a goalie or forced to get that goal scoring forward, which is why I think really the decision at that point probably comes down to Dildo or Cap or Mitzel, who hadn't gone yet at that point in time.
Yeah, and I mean, you could have put Big V on offense and then taken a guy like Mujaba or taken a guy like Diamandjeri. That was also an option, but evidently Crab didn't see that, felt that Big V was best fit on defense, and that's how he wanted to build his team. So, and I think he's nailed out a fairly good starting 5. I mean, the only team that struggles to field a starting 5 is probably, or not field a starting 5, but like has 5 cemented players who played in the LHL previously or have experienced some kind of success, or between the Panthers and Toronto. And I guess are we still talking about the 3rd round or the 4th round now?
Yeah, we're in the 3rd round still technically. So, but I mean, McJaba and Johnny are 2 players that were basically in that position 2 seasons ago. And you talked about Toronto being in that position this season, and it's pretty much where they were season 8. I mean, Leafs took a chance on Jabba, turning him into a defenseman, trying to make something out of his career, which had effectively led to very little up to that point in time. He really wasn't getting chances anywhere. And it was also Johnny's first season as a full starter. And he did a lot of work with both of them, and they were the 2nd best team that season, and during the regular season anyway. They were the number 2 seed. So he's clearly shown the ability to develop those players, and I think he's set up, again, getting McJaba and getting Selflug, which we'll get into sort of as we segue here into the 4th round. He's set up in a very similar position. Just something I mentioned earlier while you two weren't here, is that it's similar in that, like, you've got a strong goaltender, you've got Leafs and another strong forward on offense. Last time was DMB, obviously, which is an upgrade over Otto, but I'm not going to say like a gigantic upgrade. Then you've got McJaba on defense again, which this is the one team where he enjoyed significant success on, like 2.2 points per game, which is incredible. Very, very good, especially for defense. And then Self-Plug instead of Johnny this time, and it's very reminiscent of that situation. And I think you brought up Florida too. Is the other one you said, right? South?
Yes.
Yeah, where they're going to be rotating in Drag and Guy Lafleur at that 2nd forward position alongside Matt. So, but I think all of those players, Self-Plug, Guy Lafleur, and Drag, those are the ones that are really contending for those spots on those teams. I think those are players where you're in a pretty good situation to learn from. Like Guy Lafleur and Drag get to learn from Matt, and that's awesome. And they have a great group of guys around them too that are going to support them the entire way through their mistakes and through their successes. So that's really important. And I think you're going to see something similar with Self-Plug on Toronto. They're going to support him. And Leafs has shown an ability to make something out of, not nothing, obviously. It feels wrong to say that, but to make something out of a pick that people would have otherwise undervalued. So.
All right, with that, I do have to be getting off. I do have school in the morning like you fucking plebs. But enjoy the rest of the podcast, even though I'm not here. But yeah, I'll see you guys.
See you, Dick. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Buddy disconnected from your channel.
Oh, thank God. I hope he still listens for another minute just so he can hear me say that it's so much better without him. Gabe is aggressively asking us to talk about Philly, but we did a lot of team discussion earlier, so What were you gonna say, Dove?
I said, are you kidding me? He's probably sitting there attentively with his headphones like taped
What
to
are they gonna
his.
say about me?
Yeah, he leaves. All right,
This is
listen
where they're
for
gonna
the
talk
next
about
10
me.
minutes.
What's
He's
up,
brushing his
legendary
teeth.
Trev?
I can't believe he said that.
All right, so
Um,
we'll go to the third or fourth round here. We'll keep it moving because I want to try and get through this all before midnight.
I have to go to the store to get some milk, so rip.
All right, that's fine. Delphin and I'll keep
No,
chugging
no,
along.
no, no, I stay here. I'll just go later.
Oh, okay, all right.
Walmart's open all night.
Anyway, okay, so fourth round we had defenseman Jerry get his starting role on Washington, second season as a starter. Kapanen, obviously, going to us, 20. Guy Lafleur, which we spoke about a little bit, going 21 to Florida. Fat Squirrel going 22nd overall to Edmonton as the starter, his first season as an OHL starter. Then Ace on oh my god, I almost said Florida again, but Philadelphia, filling the hole left by Taze, who is on Washington this time around, and then Selfplug, who we spoke about a little bit already too, on Toronto. So thoughts, PK, on that round? I mean, I think this is the round where most people generally started to say, "Whoa, he got picked here."
Oh, yeah, for sure. Guy Lafleur. I mean, looking at the offense left at the time, it wasn't. It was a stretch. It wasn't too much of a stretch though. Fat Squirrel. I mean, I think he could have gone fifth round. I think. So I was surprised about the Fat Squirrel pick,
I mean,
along with the Guy Lafleur pick.
we'll look at what teams had starting goalies by that point, right? Like Washington did not have a goalie yet. We obviously already had a goalie. Florida had already drafted K-Bomb. Philadelphia had already drafted Meatsail, and Leafs had already drafted Briz. So the only team they were competing for Fat Squirrel as a starter was really Washington at that point. So it was basically whether or not Washington was going to take him at 25. And I think there's a good chance of that, given that Taze played with him last season, and Taze thinks very highly of Fat Squirrel.
That's true. That's true. Makes sense. Ace went 23rd. I think that was an alright pick. I mean, I had a few guys above him on my board, but I mean, like all these picks, I don't think like I might not think they're good, but they at the end of the season, I don't know. I don't know everything, but I was very surprised at this round in particular.
Delphia.
yeah, I mean, Zam's a pretty good general manager, and he's been able to do things that I haven't been able to do. Like I wasn't able to develop Jay Lally into a functioning or a top forward, and it was something that he was able to do with Jay Lally once we traded him to there, and then he was drafted there the next season, and over time he developed into what eventually became him being awarded the MVP of the season. So for Zam to pick Ace here, it's not something. It's something that I've shied away from. I've talked to Ace like for at lengths about getting him, about helping him make the jump, but it's not something that I personally saw that the mindset and the skill set was there. But at the same time, it's something that they ran for. It was the second option that they had on Philadelphia last season, and now he's going and taking him and hoping to turn him into a starter now. And it's something that this kind of thing happens. Good general managers build off of their former rosters. They take a backup. It's something that I did with Trev Crow. Season 7 he didn't start. Season 8 he started. So this kind of thing happens. And I hope for Zam and I hope for Ace, because they're both really good guys, I hope that it works out. But it's not something that I personally saw was ready. So I mean, by all means, I hope it works out. And then also in that round, you see Guy Lafleur go there, and I mean he's just a top prospect, no doubt, a top prospect. Anytime a guy goes and scores 2 goals in the LHL finals, a guy who is eligible to play in the JSL, he goes and performs at the top level, he's gonna get some eyes on him, and people are gonna start checking him out. I mean, he was scoring. I think he's finished with 18 goals in the JSL over the playoffs. That's ridiculous. You've got to be a pretty dominant player. You know, you can't just be a reactionary guy. You're creating offense at that point. And that's awesome. And he went in and had I think 7 points in the RSL over the playoffs, and then 2 goals in the LHL. I mean, he's a top prospect, and I hoped for the development team that he wouldn't be picked in the 4th round, but he was. And that's good. That's great for him, and he's going to get great opportunities learning from Matt. We talked about that, but for Leafs, there, for the Toronto Maple Leafs, they picked Self-Plug there, and they needed a defenseman, and they needed a defensive defenseman because you pick McJobba. I mean, we all know McJobba's an offensive guy. He's going to pinch down a lot. He's gonna vacate that point to go down a lot, and that's something that we saw in season 8. That's something that's going to continue to happen. Unfortunately, that's something that also Self-Plug does at even more rates than McJobba does, and I'm not sure that Leafs knows that. I think Leafs might have had a bit of a gaffe here. I'm going to say that is that you might not have done your research enough on this guy. If you expect to be able to play McJobba and Self-Plug on defense, what's going to end up happening is Leafs is going to be playing defense most of the time. If you're starting those guys on the point, on the back end, you're going to be cycling back. Otto's going to be cycling back. Otherwise, no one's going to be back there. And so yeah, I don't think this is necessarily going to work out with that starting 5. I think it's going to be a very volatile situation if you've got McJobba and you've got Self-Plug pinching down way too much. I don't think that they did their research there, and I think there were better picks available, like asking Notled to play defense, like asking a guy like Doucette, who is a cemented defensive forward, who knows how to break out the puck and is constantly developing. I don't get that. I don't get why you go with Self-Plug instead of Doucette there, but you know, it's gonna be, maybe it's something that works out really well, and we can play this recording and laugh at me. So I don't know, that's how I see it. Other than that,
Yeah, I
the
actually
4th round pretty normal.
I didn't see that pick actually. I didn't notice that. Yeah, Self-Plug there was very soon in my book. That was the most surprising actually.
I think Self-Plug, Ace, and Guy Lafleur all could have. I think I can say confidently they could have gone 1 round later than they did. Like we said with Fat Squirrel, there's a chance he might not have made it there, so I understand that. But I think Guy, Ace, and Self-Plug, I don't think many people had them pegged as LHL starters outside of the GMs who took them, obviously. And that's not to say that they can't handle the role. That's not to say they won't be able to develop into the role. I don't want to sound negative on it at all. But I feel like the GMs saw what they want there and said, okay, I'm gonna go get him now. I'm not gonna wait and risk it. And that was, I mean, I guess it remains to be seen whether or not it was the right move, right? I mean, sometimes that is the right thing to do. Sometimes it's better to just take who you think is the best player for your team there. Other times, it's better to just take the absolute best player that's available at all in the draft. And everyone is going to have different opinions on who is best right now, who has best potential in the future. And I'm sure Leafs is looking to develop Self-Plug especially a lot this season. And Self-Plug has shown that he has talent. Just like we spoke about with Dildo earlier, he's got some really nice hands especially. He has talent. It's there. But as you pointed out, and I think, again, I think I mentioned it earlier when DeBeasy was here and we spoke about the individual teams a lot, I pointed out that you're going to wind up with 4 players up in the offensive zone a lot if you've got those 2 guys playing defense for you, McJobba and Self-Plug. So there's going to have to be some discipline, and that's not something you can really just force into them. That's something that they're going to have to learn by making that mistake. So I think there's going to be growing pains there for that team, where you're going to have 4 people up in the zone, the puck's going to get sent to the middle or something like that, or go past one of the defensemen on the point, and now you've got a breakaway going the other way. And I think you'll see that a decent amount, potentially in the preseason and the beginning of the season, as they sort of start to figure out how to work with that lineup. but I have faith in Leafs. I have faith in his ability to develop players, and I think Selfplug is in a good position where if he listens and if he takes to heart what McJaba is saying, he can really do a lot for his LHL career moving forward. But it's going to take him or McJaba learning how to play defense a different way than what they're used to. And that might be hard for them.
Yeah,
So.
I mean it's cool. It's perpetuated by the fact that you go and you draft Mr. U, who I'm sorry, but he's just not a defenseman. If you put him on defense, he's going to be back skating, and that's not something that I want to see. And Parabola, I know he's played some defense, but he's not a natural defenseman. He wouldn't choose to play defense if it was his decision. And Crackpipe is most definitely a forward. So you draft 2 offensive defensemen, who I don't even consider a defenseman. I don't consider Selfplug a defenseman. So really, I mean, Leafs, you drafted 1 defenseman in my book, and he's not even a cemented. He's not even considered, like a good defensive guy. So, I mean, like Dial, you said you didn't want to be negative about it, but I'm willing to be negative about it. I don't think that the Leafs are adequately prepared to play defense this season.
I mean, honestly, I said similar things to what you're saying now after the Season 8 draft. I mean, we had never seen Johnny as a starter before. And I mean, there's more on Selfplug now. I think it's easier to be prepared for that and easier to understand what you're getting into. But, I mean, he was going into uncharted territory with Jabba playing defense for the first time ever and getting Selfplug, who, again, is going to be in his starting role for the first time ever. So that was a surprise to me. A lot of that was. But they ended up doing really well. And I thought they were going to be one of the worst teams in the league that season. I thought they were really going to struggle. I thought it was going to be a lot of work on DMB and Leafs to account for the deficiency on the blue line. And K-Bomb did excellent that season, as did both Leafs and DMB, and they were able to really help turn both of those guys into significant contributors for that team. Both those guys meaning Johnny and Jabba. So again, I'm holding out. I'm holding out on judging them yet, because I think we need to see them play. I think we need to give it a little bit before we actually make that final decision on it. But I mean, I agree with you in the sense that I think it was a bit questionable there to take another offensive defenseman who's going to play a very similar style to McJava. I think there potentially could have been better picks, like Doucette is one you mentioned, who is a bit better at that discipline, and another one who didn't get drafted while we're on the topic of younger up-and-coming defensemen, Austin too. I mean, he's obviously been around for a long time, but he's finally making a switch over from goalie to defenseman as of, I think, last season. So this is only his second season playing defense, and he did not bad at it, honestly. He was pretty good at it in the RSL, and he got his chance in the LHL a couple of times for, I think, your team, at least your team, potentially another team.
And he came in and played extremely well.
Yeah, so...
and also, I'm fairly certain as of right now, he's the best defenseman in the RSL that isn't eligible. Like, last season was one of the best defensemen. I mean, like, beyond people who would challenge him for that title would be like Ace.
Yeah.
And I mean, Doucette was playing offense. I'm not sure that anyone else was better on defense in the RSL than Austin was, and he doesn't even he's not even on the radar of LHL general managers. It's because they don't watch the RSL, and they see Austin's name, and they assume that he's bad, or they assume that he's a bad goalie, and that's about it. He came in and started playing excellent defensive hockey after one season. He started skating, and for one season he turned and became a top RSL defenseman. It's not easy. It's not easy to be a top RSL player.
It's not easy to be a good defenseman in general. Defense is hard. It is hard.
And I think the skills of defense in the RSL transfer more to the OHL than being a successful forward, and then hoping to transfer that to the OHL. I think it's it's a lot more of the same motions. It's not it doesn't get that necessarily much harder. You face a lot of the same one-on-one battles as you would. You know, you face much harder passing reads, and you face a bit harder dangles. But in terms of the vital skills, breaking out the puck adequately, keeping the puck in at the blue line, those kind of things, if you can do that well, you can play at the LHL level, and you can defend a one-on-one battle, and that's something that Austin can do, but he's not drafted.
Yeah, and there were some other big names that we're used to seeing too that went long after him. Byrne and Dr. Grims especially, and Super Hockley was coming back, who's had time in the LHL before as a defenseman. So all three of them experienced players who this time last season you would have expected to find in that role next to Machado. Not necessarily Selfless. So, but clearly Leafs is going for younger players. He seems to want players that he can make a significant impression on, who will buy into what he's doing, buy into his system. And I think that's why he chose who he chose. And I mean, it may not wind up being the best decision for him, but we'll see. PK, any closing thoughts on the fourth round?
No, they summed it up.
All right, I'm gonna throw it back to you for the fifth round. So, Ticklebox going the first pick of the fifth round to Washington. Not Laid going to us, 26. Drag going to Florida at 27. Poof to Edmonton, 28. Doucette to Philadelphia at 29. And Mr. U to Toronto at 30.
Yeah,
So, initial
fifth round
reactions.
here, we're getting into our backups. Obviously, these players won't be great, but I feel like some of these players could have been interchanged with some of the players in the fourth round. Like, Not Led, I feel, should have won it earlier. For sure. I was surprised he fell to us. Doucette, maybe. Could have won it a little earlier. And, that's about it, actually. So, fifth round, you expect people to take chances on different players. I didn't really have any specifics in mind here. Just whatever fell, fell. What fell?
Makes sense. Yeah, I thought Doucette I expected to go in the fifth round. I thought that's where he was going to go, and ultimately I was right. I thought he'd go earlier in the fifth round, but I don't think going in the fifth round is a bad place for him. I think that's okay for him right now. And he's going to keep working at improving and getting better and working into that starting role. I mean, we mentioned he could potentially have had that spot on Toronto that may have been a better fit. We don't know right now, but it definitely could have been. I'm not surprised to see someone take a chance on Drag, although again, I think Drag might have been there in the sixth. It's potential. I think that was another one where leaving some talent on the board there, I think, by taking Drag. But again, having Matt, having Guy Lafleur already, where you're going to be doing a lot to develop that forward, you get a second one in there too, and they're two of the most promising forwards right now, those young guys. So, and who better to introduce them to playing at an LHL level than Matt? I mean, that's fantastic for them because he'll be able to make up for their mistakes while being able to enable them to do what they're capable of doing and to see what they're capable of doing. So that's pretty exciting for them. The biggest surprise for me in that round was Ticklebox. I did not really think Ticklebox was even going to get drafted, to be honest.
I mean, that's exactly where I had him. it's exactly, it's kind of predictable. It's a guy who's used to be pretty good and is a name that's available, and Taze isn't necessarily against it. Yeah, let's go for it. It's pretty predictable that he would have gone for Ticklebox there. But at the same time, I'm not saying that it was the right decision. I'm not saying that it was a good decision, like many of the decisions T made in the later rounds. But it's not a surprise to me. That's exactly the spot that I predicted Ticklebox to go.
outside of Ticklebox, what's your thoughts on the rest of the round?
I mean, I don't really think that you needed to get dragged there. There was question marks as to whether or not he would be in the LHL. So I don't think that he was gonna like that highly coveted guy. I think BGP was more on the board of players of general managers, not necessarily drag. So I don't really see why you go for drag there. And I know BGP went shortly after that, but I don't like I said, he's not. He was a question mark as to whether or not he'd get drafted into the OHL. To go in the 5th round is just kind of a surprise. It seems like a waste of resources to me.
That trade was a little wasteful of resources.
Oh, the 7th round one. We'll get there when we talk about it. But I mean, clearly, like he didn't care about what he was going to pick there. He was going to pick something trolly because he's going to drop whoever he picked in the 7th round. He's going to drop for Stu Walton when he signed up as a free agent, which he's technically already done. So that was going to happen no matter what. So, but we'll get into that more in the 7th round. So, but yeah, the big surprise to me was that I really didn't think Ticklebox should have been drafted. That's doggone woof. That's not to say he doesn't necessarily have the ability to still play at an LHL level in a spot position, but he never shows up and he never plays the game anymore. So it really leads me to question what his motivation is still to actually be there. And I know, Dalf, you have a bit of a higher opinion of him than I do. But he was a very good goalie when he was playing in net, and I kind of wish he had just stuck to that. Instead, he sort of branched out and went another direction and became a skater, and I think he's been not as good ever since. And I don't like being negative at all on this show, but I mean, I wish he would just go back to net. But on that team, there's a decent chance that we see him in net. With T-Lors being somewhat of a question mark, I don't really know where he's at right now, and Proper Cheese as well, who they got in the 6th round, and we'll get there in a sec. So, but yeah, definitely not lead falling. I was very, very surprised by it. I really thought that he would go before I thought there was a chance he would go before he picked in the beginning of the 4th round. I thought that was a possibility. It probably would have been high for him, but I thought it was a possibility. But to see him fall all the way to the beginning of the 5th was definitely a shock to me. I thought, especially after we picked Cap at, what was it? I forget the number. I think it was 20th overall. I really thought that he was going to Florida at 21 to play with Matt. I was very sure of that happening, and lo and behold, he fell to us. So, all right. Any other comments on round 5?
Yeah, I mean, and I just looked at it again, and it, you know, I kind of talked about how drag is a waste of a pick since he could have gotten him in 6th, but at the end of the day, you got that value pick in Capital Skis, and that's what he wanted. He wanted a backup goaltender. No one else was in the market for a backup goaltender, so it's not like it's not as if he threw away a pick or he didn't get a guy that he wanted because of that. So it's just kind of inconsequential at the end. And good for drag to get drafted that high. That's awesome. And good for the RSL too.
Another person, while I'm thinking about it, that I'm very surprised did not get drafted was Tidge. I really thought Tidge has started to look pretty good, especially last season, the time he got in the LHL. I really thought he deserved another opportunity, and I would not be surprised at all to see him make his way onto a roster. I think he deserved it more than Tickle, Decat, or Crackpipe did, to be totally honest. I thought he deserved one of those positions, and he's putting in work and he's doing everything he can to get better, and he cares. He genuinely cares about improving himself. So I was surprised to see him not get a chance. Very surprised, where he was actually a fairly important part of that Pittsburgh roster last season, even though he might not have played the number of minutes you would expect, but down the stretch he was meaningful to them. So. Alright, so we'll take a look at the 6th round. So first pick of the 6th round is Proper Cheese. Then we got BG. Then Capital Skis went to Florida. And Burn Wernham to Edmonton at 34. Marchi to Philly at 35. And Parabola to Toronto at 36. So PK, we'll throw to you again. Initial thoughts on round 6.
I mean, Proper Cheese is a big name. He's playing goalie this year, right? Season, sorry.
He is still playing goalie. He wanted
He's
to
still playing
play
goalie.
offense in the RSL, so I know he was hoping to get picked in the bottom 3 rounds so that he'd be eligible to play offense in the RSL. I don't
Yeah.
know if they're gonna let him do that.
Yeah, but anyways, Proper is a pretty good goalie. I mean, going in the 6th round, it's a little surprising to me actually. I was like, I think he should have went in the 5th round where Ticklebox went. But I mean, they still got him at 6, so it doesn't really matter. BG, he's a great player. I mean, he's put in a lot of work recently. And I feel like he'll continue to make improvements throughout the season. Capital Skis is also a very good goaltender and solid backup. No complaints there. Baron Wernham, he's a bigger name. He usually goes later. I mean, I think he's decent. I mean, he's obviously not one of the best, nor one of the guys in the middle. But I wouldn't have a problem with him on. I wouldn't have a problem with him as a backup at all. I mean, for a 6th round, I think Burn is a good pick for sure. Then Marchi, I mean, Marchi has an interesting attitude, and I think his play's pretty good. I mean, I think he's a little Gabe-like, but less skill, which explains why he went in the 6th round. And then Parabolic. I mean, I always call him Parabolics, but I mean, he was
Why?
on my list for sure. I don't know.
Parabolax.
It's a word. Parabola. That's
Yeah.
a word.
No, but it's a
I know.
parabolax.
I call him Parabolic.
It's not parabola. I don't know why everybody sees
No,
that
no,
word
look,
and thinks
see,
Ebola.
P-A-R-A, para, B-O-L,
Parabola.
ball.
Parabola. It's a thing.
I know what
a
it is. I
dictionary.
know what
Yeah,
it's
but as
supposed
soon as
to
you
be.
put an X on either side of it, it's now this is a parabolax.
No. No.
Yes.
Yes.
It's spelled like xylophone.
Parabolax. Okay,
There's
that's
a-
fine.
There's an
Parabolax
X
is fine.
in front that's pronounced the
Parabolax.
Z. So
Parabolax.
it's the
is
parabolax.
not
I know I'm
parabola.
wrong. I know I'm wrong, but I say it that way.
Peribola is wrong. It's
Anyways,
not pear as
he's-
in like the fruit followed by Ebola as in like the disease. It's not parabola.
I don't know. It kind of is.
It kind yeah.
It kind of is.
It could be. You never know.
Anyway,
Like I had him on one of my teams before, and I have no complaints. I think he'll do very well on Toronto. I think he might work his
he'll
way
be
up
asked to
into-
play. He'll be asked to play defense on that team.
I think he might be a starter over Self Plug eventually, but and that's what I think.
Dalfan, thoughts on round 6?
It was nice to see some guys go from the RSL, some development guys. To see BG, to see Capital Skis go here, and same with the 5th round, and we saw it even in the 4th round. That's awesome. And so the 6th round kind of caught up with us and said, all right, it's time to pick these guys. Like these guys are pretty talented. It's time to get them off the board. So Marchi went and Proper went, which I was surprised. I didn't think Proper was going to get drafted. I thought it was going to be kind of a what would you call it, an economical sanction against Proper Cheese, where all the GMs decide to team up against him and don't draft him. But sure enough, Steelers caved and said, damn, he's a pretty good goalie. I kind of want him. So that happened, and he went in the 6th round, which is a pretty good value if he doesn't
tremendous
crap
value.
himself.
I
If he doesn't,
think he's good enough to be a starter in the LHL. I believe that. So to get somebody who's of that caliber in the 6th round, is impressive. It really is. I mean, to pull off a pick of that value, I think is very good. And I think it sort of made his 5th round pick of Ticklebox better in a sense, because I think you lost value on your 5th round pick, but you gained a lot on the 6th. So I thought that was pretty important for them.
Yeah, I mean, I agree that he's good enough to be a starter. He's proved that. He's started on defense. He's started in net too. Now, and yes, is he better than a 6th round pick? Is he better than a 4th round pick? Maybe yes, but the question mark begins is when he decides that he doesn't want to take the game seriously at the 13 game mark of the season. Then will he be a better player than what you could get in the 6th round? Maybe. And what kind of a negative effect does it have on your locker room?
I mean, it'll be interesting because this is one of his first seasons without Gabe. He's only had, I think, one other season he's played where he hasn't been on Gabe's team.
Yeah,
So
I remember last season he wouldn't play for a team other than Gabe's.
Yeah. So it's a big change for him. Moving past him, BG's commenting that he's surprised that we took him over Marchie. To be fair, I don't know. I don't think
BG over Marchie?
Yeah, I don't think Marchie is quite as ready at an LHL level as what he gets credit for. I mean, he did well, don't get me wrong. He did well last season in the spots that he was asked to play in. He has the talent to play it. What concerns me about Marchie is his mindset and his willingness to show up. I think there's still a lot of immaturity there in him as a person, and that's something that just personally I wouldn't want to have to rely on. Whereas we got somebody like you who is definitely one of the better players already in the RSL, one of the better forwards especially in the RSL, who's still really young in his career. I mean, Marchie has been around since season 1 of the LHL. And you've been here, I think this is your 2nd or 3rd season, and you're making great progress as it is already. And there's a lot of players who are in your position in other roles as well. But we were very interested in taking you, me personally as well. I mean, I very much wanted to play with you, even more so than Guy. Don't tell Guy that, but I was really hoping that we would get you as sort of our prospect forward. So I was very happy that we wound up getting you and that you fell to us, because I think in the long run you have much more potential to be earning that starting role in the LHL than I think Marchie does.
Yeah, if you've been around for what 10 seasons now, well 9, and you haven't cracked a top 5 spot on a team, I don't think you ever will, because there's something wrong with your mindset or something. Like there has to be something wrong.
I mean, in his defense, he has cracked it multiple times, and it's been in and out, and he's put up over
That's what I meant,
point per game minutes on the time that he has, but it's a bit more complicated than that to say BG is a talented prospect, Marchie is a talented player, take the better forward. It's a bit more complicated than that, because you have to keep in mind Marchie would not be satisfied per se with a non-starting role or a non-partial starting role. So you take Marchie and he's chomping for Kapanen's minutes, and so if Kapanen, if the top 4 that you select works out and you're having a successful season and Dyal gets 15 minutes, Kapanen gets 15 minutes, then Marchie's going to want out. And so basically, if you pick Marchie, it's on the premise that you don't have confidence in the players that you have selected, and it sends that message to those players. And not only that, but it puts you in a position where you have to make a move if your team works out, and that's not something that necessarily you want to build your team like as if you're selecting players on insurance, like just in case he doesn't work out, then I'll pick him. Instead, you should be saying, we already have our guy, but let's try and develop a guy too. And I think that's a better decision to make. So I'm just saying there's more there's more it's a bigger thing behind it than just looking at value and saying, oh, why didn't you take Marshy there?
She just said there's like sound problems or something. This stream.
Oops, not holding down my push to talk button. That's probably what it was.
I can hear
But
you all the way through.
yeah,
Can't hear you.
yeah, you can, but the stream can't. If I don't have my push to talk button
Oh.
down, the stream can't hear me. So,
You have a different push to talk button?
no, I don't use push to talk on TeamSpeak typically, and then I use push to talk for the stream.
Weirdo.
Well, that way, if I need to address anything off stream, I can. Makes it a little bit easier. But yeah, long and short of it, basically echoing what Dalfan said, like better now doesn't necessarily mean better by the end of the season. There's a lot of factors that go into picking the forward, and I know Guy is sitting there saying, "Oh, Guy Lafleur, what a dumb pick," and I disagree with that entirely. I'm very happy for you in the position that you got, and I'm very happy to see that you're getting a starting spot. And I know I said I kind of preferred BG to you, but I mean that in the sense of I think of you more as a goal scorer, and I think of BG more as a playmaker. And I feel like I could have a bigger impact on developing BG's career than I could developing Guy's. So, and having Guy on a team with Matt and Drag being in a similar situation on a team with Matt, I mean that is the guy to learn behind in terms of the role that they're trying to break into. Whereas, as I said, I think of BG is more of that playmaker. He's not necessarily going to go out there and score a hat trick for you every game, but he might go out there and get 3 points for you every game. And that's important. I mean that is just as important as the guy who goes out there and scores 3 goals every game. So it's two different types of players, two different types of forwards, and I think you and I would probably work better together as well than me and Guy would, just in the sense of, again, two different types of players, two different styles of play. And that's not a negative. There's nothing wrong with that. So that is what it is. So Capital Skis, I think, was a great choice. Not surprised at all to see him getting a chance. I think 6th round is about where I thought he would go. 6th, maybe 7th, early 7th, but yeah, 6th round is right about where I thought he would go. So Burn, I was surprised to see fall that far. I know Burn is sort of falling out of favor more and more with LHL teams, and it seems to be a trend that's happened over the past couple seasons. But I was surprised to see him fall all the way down to the 6th round, and I thought that Edmonton got a lot of value in that pick where they took him. I thought that's a very good pick for them. Not that they necessarily had a hole at defense where you've got Crab and Big V who cycle in and out of that role, and you've got Trevcro who's shown to be awesome the past couple of seasons. But still, I mean, he provides some excellent depth from somebody who started several seasons for his career and still has the potential to be starting at some point for this team or another team later on during the season. So definitely a good pickup by Crab. Definitely surprised to see him fall that far. Marchi we sort of went over. I think he deserves his chance in the LHL. I think he deserves his spot on the roster. And I think he's in a bit better of a situation there where I think he fits in a bit more with the team there in Philadelphia. But I'm not entirely sure how well he and Gabe work together. I don't know if they've been on a team before. And realistically, he'll be filling in for Tall Midget for those games that Tall isn't there. It'll be a mix of Doucette and Marchie filling in. So it remains to be seen how those two will work together. But Marchie did work very well with Timu. And Timu is somewhat similar to Gabe in several aspects. So, and then lastly, Parabola, who I think you spoke to, PK, who's a good player. I think a bit underrated almost in some aspects
sure.
too. So I think he was well deserving of where he got picked. I think he's going to be asked to play defense, and I think Mr. Yu is going to be in the same position where the two of them are going to be asked to play defense. And I would agree with Dalfan's perspective on it, and that I don't think either of them are really natural defensemen. I think they're better in the forward role, but that's just not a position that they're going to be able to see a whole lot of time in this season, unfortunately, on the team that they're on. So that's all I got now for round 6. So you guys good? Round 6. Anything else? Any other comments from this?
I'm good.
Yeah.
All right. So round 7, last round.
Seventh
So
round.
we had the trade that went down, which
The trade.
basically I think just shows you that T didn't really care about his depth, which I find surprising. And I mentioned it earlier if you were listening when we had the BZ on, that I thought that could come back to bite them if he doesn't make some serious changes to his back end in terms of who he has for depth. I think there's some question marks there with both Clyde and Lucic potentially having pretty mediocre attendance. So I think you really need to rely on who you've got on your back end there. And I personally don't trust Sticklebox, and I think it's very safe to say it's an overdraft for DCAT there, who went at 42. So I think he's going to have to revisit his depth. I think he's going to be forced to and reconsider some of the decisions that he made there at the end of the draft. But outside of that, Toronto went first. They got Crack Pipe. We got Sully. Then Florida got Super Hot Glue. Dr. Germs went to Edmonton. Nina went to Philadelphia, and then DCAT obviously to Washington. So, Dalthan, we'll start with you this time. Thoughts on the round in general?
Yeah, I mean, you see Sully get picked up. We knew that was going to happen, and Dr. Germs goes, and Crack Pipe, which was kind of, it's kind of reminiscent of me picking Narg last season. Like, let's see, let's see. This guy had a good RSL season. Let's see what he's got. Nina goes, just a pretty routine round. No surprise for Ev Cobb to pick a guy that he likes in Super, and it really comes down to the bottom line with Tealers selecting DCAT there is, I think it's just honestly an insult to the league to go and do that, to go and make a statement like that, and to basically say, I don't care about this pick. I'm just gonna drop him anyway. There are players, there are RSLers who have tremendous respect for the LHL, and they desperately want to play in the LHL, and they practice every single day. Every single day they practice at a chance of cracking the LHL, at a chance of getting drafted in the 7th round. And frankly, I have a problem with you going out there and just kind of making a tomfoolery of it. And the community and the BOC voted Tealers in on the premise that he was going to take the job with the utmost seriousness, do everything in his power to stay competitive, make a good team, draft a good team, and that right there, I think, is just unprofessional and makes our league look like a joke, and make it just drop some of the respect that the RSL has for it. There are RSLers who are not on LHL teams that would love to get drafted to the LHL, and
No doubt.
and that didn't happen. And instead, you see DCAT get picked there. And no offense to DCAT, but it's just like he's not there yet. So, with that being said, I'd rather have you pick DCAT, yes, than pick an RSLer and then drop him right away, yeah, you're right. I would rather have you do that than get some RSLers hopes up and then just drop them that night. That's even worse. But the fact that you were going out there and you're drafting your friend in the 7th round when the guy doesn't necessarily play, the guy obviously doesn't deserve to be in the league. I think it's going against the premise that we vote. I voted for Tillers, and people asked, "How did T get in? How did T get in?" And that goes back on me because I voted for that. I didn't have a BOC vote, but I had a community vote. And at the end of the day, that vote comes back on me, comes back on everyone else that voted for Tealers, and for him to go back and maybe I'm making a bigger deal out of a 7th round pick, out of some roster spot that's going to Stu. But yeah, I have a problem with that. I have a problem with you not sticking up for the league and saying I'm going to draft a depth guy. And it's worse for the league when Lucic doesn't show up and Claude doesn't show up, and suddenly you're starting Ticklebox and Stu Walton. It's going to have a negative impact on your team. But on top of that, it just perpetuates the idea that the LHL is some kind of fraternity, and the only way to get it in is to warm up to people. And there are talented enough RSLers to play in the LHL, but they're not getting their opportunity because of the GMs in place. And I've already talked about how Austin is a talented enough player to be playing in the LHL, and he's not because our LHL GMs don't have a high enough opinion of him. They assume that he sucks. He doesn't. The LHL GMs don't put in the time to scout and determine that he is a good player. And so I have a problem with that. I have a problem with that. And maybe I have more of a problem with it than is reasonable. Maybe I have more of a problem with it because I voted for T and I feel kind of it's not like betrayed, but just kind of like, really, dude? Really? It's an insult to people who work their ass off to get into this league, and you're going to use that when there are people out there who would say maybe T himself isn't deserving of being in the LHL, but he gets in, and so that's a roster spot that could go to a deserving RSLer who practices every day. And then there's another roster spot that isn't going to an art. There's 2 roster spots now on that team. You tack on Ticklebox, who doesn't even play the game. That's 3 roster spots that could be going to deserving RSLers who love this game and want to be in the league, and they're not going to it because of decisions that I made. Not me necessarily. I don't think it was one vote that turned the tide, but it's a decision that we made as a community.
He was pretty solidly in 5th place for the voting. Like the other GMs behind him were not close enough that they were going to take it away. He was like 10 votes up, I think, on 6th place from the community voting.
That's pretty crazy. He
finished 5th in both the community and BOC voting. And for what it was worth, we each had 50% of the weight. BOC had 50% and the community had 50%.
Right, and I mean, it's still that premise that PK said he was going to have a serious campaign. He was going to take it very seriously. He was going to take his job very seriously, and he did for the first 5 rounds. What? Maybe just the first 4 rounds. The first 4 rounds. And I just have a problem with going and drafting your friends rather than deserving players. That's not what the LHL is about. Maybe I'm taking it too seriously, but I have a problem with that.
I mean, I think it's fair to have a problem with it. So, I mean, go ahead.
It's insulting to Decant too. To Decant, and I don't know if he was watching the stream. I don't think he was, but it's insulting to draft him and then drop him. Don't do that. And don't draft your friend just because you have that power. It's completely goes against the entire premise of the league, and I'm done. Sorry, I'm done. Someone else can take the mic, but
I mean, PK, as a fellow GM, and how did you feel about the situation?
I don't think that should have been. Well, first of all, I don't think he should have been making that trade in the first place, switching last round picks, and I also don't think it should have been allowed. But it was, and that's, we can't do anything about it now. But I agree with Alphan. It's pretty disrespectful. I mean, I know what he's trying to do. He just wanted to pick Stu Walton, but obviously there are better players out there. And I know I've been getting some shit for picking Sully 7th round, and I put my research in. Like, don't don't say I didn't. I've been working with Sully pretty much every day for the past few months, and he's been getting a lot better, especially in the past few weeks. And I feel like by the end of the season, he'll be one of the top backups in the league. And what T. Lures did, I feel like he doesn't really practice. He doesn't really practice like the offense did. I feel like he just kind of said, "Oh, fuck it, 7th round pick doesn't matter. Let me just trade this for that and PCAT." Where
Yeah,
7th rounders, I mean, they could come if a few people can't make it. They could be the difference between a win and a loss, and one win and one loss could be a difference between making the playoffs and missing the playoffs. You gotta take every pick seriously.
and to an extent, I kind of do hope that it comes back to bite them. I have a gut feeling that it won't. I feel like they're going to wind up getting through it and being fine, but it would be nice to see it come back and bite them. Not necessarily ruin their season or anything, but I'd like to see just like a game or two where like this decision does come back to haunt them. Because I agree with you. I think it was disrespectful. I think it was an inappropriate way of handling one of your 7 draft picks as a GM. That's it. You only get 7. I think it was incorrect. Everything about it was incorrect. I agree with everything that both of you said, to be honest. So I'm not really happy with it, and I think it reflects poorly on everybody in the community because he was voted in by the community. He was voted in by the community. He was voted in albeit again in 5th place in both the community and BOC votes, but that's enough. I mean, he was a top 5 choice. So to see him take that opportunity and treat it in the way that he did, especially when you remember that the best GM trophy is named after this guy. And yet that's the way he's approaching his role, and that's the way he's approaching the league, and I think that's inappropriate, and if anything, it just serves to make the league look even more stupid. Like, why do we name the best GM trophy after this guy? Like, after that? So, I won't get into it too much more, but I think it's pretty clear that pretty much everybody disagrees with what happened. I thought the reaction you heard initially on the draft show was leaning towards that anyway. I thought it was fairly easy to gather that the majority of people there watching it didn't expect it and didn't agree with it. And as entertaining as they might have thought it was, it really wasn't entertaining to anybody else. And I just hope that DCAT isn't insulted, and I hope that the players who get passed over for those positions don't take it personally, because there's only so much they could have done to actually prevent that from happening.
And keep in mind, like, there's always free agency. Like,
yeah.
Stuff will happen. Free agents will be picked up. So.
Oh yeah.
I
No,
mean,
they will.
There's still hope. For sure.
Yeah, and I kept my mouth shut when it happened. I didn't want to necessarily make a scene or draw extra attention to it, but it was just like I personally struck a problem with it, and it's as a former GM, it's pretty easy to be a GM to show up and to pick some players. You know, the premise is on you to make a plan, but there are people, there are BOC, there are streamers who put in a tremendous amount of effort to make the draft look extremely professional. And there are people who put in countless hours making the statistical pages, making the roster page, make the schedule, making everything happen to make the league look very professional, organized, and like the highest level of competitive hockey question mark play in the world, really. I don't think that the IPHL or any of those other leagues are as organized as this one, and that's awesome. And it's pretty easy to be a GM. It's pretty easy not to make a joke of it. and maybe this is pretty hypocritical for me when I tried to trade picks with Leafs at the end to do that, but at the same time, I picked Narg with that pick because it was an RSL and I wanted to develop him and I wanted to take that pick and develop the league and develop the player base. And you know, it's like I said, maybe it's a little bit hypocritical for me to talk about the trade, and I didn't necessarily strike that big of an issue with the trade. I mean, did it need to happen? Definitely not. Does it really matter? No. But then when you go and pick when you trade that, and then you go and pick uh, a non valid pick basically, and then drop that immediately. Maybe non-valid pick is just the wrong word, but you go and you pick DCAT with that, and then drop it to pick up your buddy, who has never made any sort of drive to put in the work when there are people who have put in the work, and now they're not getting their opportunity because of the structure of the league. And so I just think it's wrong.
Yep, agreed. Agreed pretty much on all
I don't
fronts,
think
so.
anyone will disagree with that.
Sorry, I'm talking. Baba is sending me messages here.
What
trying
does
to-
he have to say?
He's trying to tell me that Crab is interested in coming on the podcast, but I'm gonna wait to see if Crab actually says that Crab wants to come on the podcast. So, anyway. Well, that pretty much concludes it. I mean, we went through not specifically the other teams individually, but we went through that with a couple other people on the show before the two of you came on. So I'm not gonna sit here and go through it all over again. Sorry to anybody who's been
Boston
waiting for
Circle
that.
Jerk?
But Boston Circle Jerk, right? It's coming this season. Be ready. It's coming. So, but yeah.
Can we just rename the show like Boston and
the Boston
good.
Circle Jerk. We'll just call it that.
sounds good?
Apparently, Baba is a liar. Okay.
Hate when that
Anyway,
happens.
so, all right. Should we talk about the development team then? That'll be the last thing we have to do. Delph will announce the development team here.
Yeah, we can do that. We were gonna announce five, half of the development team roster. We're waiting on the other half because those players are JSL players. Those players are RSL players who are not in the top
Hey, wake up.
5 rounds of the LHL, and they're, if we announce them, their draft stock in the RSL draft will change dramatically, and I don't think it's fair for a player to be asked to perform at a higher level just because I think they're good. I don't think it's fair for a player to be asked to carry his team just because I think he has potential now. A lot of these guys are long-term projects that I think it's going to take a lot of time, but they have a ton of potential, and so I don't think it's fair for those players to go in the top. Some of the guys that we're going to list at the end of the RSL draft, I don't think it's fair for them to go in the top 3 rounds just based on the idea that I think that they have potential. And I don't think that'd be good for them either to ask them to carry teams. So we're gonna hold off on half of them, but we're happy to announce 5 now. So I don't know if how exactly we want to do this. I think we have 2 forwards, 2 defensemen, and 1 goalie that we're gonna announce tonight. I guess we could probably do a little spiel on some of them too, eh?
It's
Yeah.
up to you, man.
Good with me. I can just go to the store at like 2 a.m. Doesn't matter.
It'd just be
It
a
won't
short
be
thing.
that long. Yeah, it'll be like a minute or so.
I was just joking. Yeah, I'm up for it.
I mean, by the time we're done, though, I'm sure there'll be something else that'll come up, and we'll talk about that. Yeah. Anyway, all right.
Yeah.
So, should we start with the forwards then?
I was gonna start backwards from the net
Okay.
out.
All right, we can do that.
First goalie that we're going to talk about is Capital Skis. He will be one of our goaltenders, I believe, for the red team, but that remains to be totally announced. So he's going to be one of our goaltenders, and one that we're happy to announce this one he was kind of a shoe-in as a guy who's going to be in the backup this season as the LHL. He was drafted in the 6th round by the Panthers, and he's going to be a starter in the RSL, no doubt. And we think he has what it takes. Easily one of the best non-starting goaltender prospects in the LHL, up-and-coming guy. So that's the lowdown with him, and it's easy, no-brainer for us to take capital skis for the development team. And hopefully, I think we could push him into maybe a starting role. Maybe not this season, but easily by next season, I see him in the LHL. So that is our goaltender. Do you want to announce one, Dial?
Sure. So one that we've spoken a lot about, and actually, I suppose the next two, we're doing the defenseman, right? Next.
Yes, correct.
Okay, so I mean, we've spoken a good amount about both of these defensemen. Both of us have, well, I should say, I've played with this one that I'll be announcing. Dalfan has played a decent amount with the second one that I'll let him announce, but we both had some time to watch them grow as players into their roles, and especially this first one that I'm announcing is gone through a position change. From goalie, he was originally a sort of a prospect goalie of PK, to playing offense in the RSL, to playing defense in the LHL. So he's been going through all sorts of different roles, been asked to do a million different things, and he's done a great job at every position. And he's a bit more experienced than some of the other players that we're going to wind up taking for this team. But we feel that Doucette is a really good defenseman to build one of these teams around, and ideally, he'll be a great foundation for either of the teams. Honestly, I mean, I say either of the teams for those who don't understand. We're splitting the development team up into a red team and a blue team, so basically 2 lines effectively. So, and they're going to be anchored by these 2 defensemen here. That'll be the 2 sort of experienced, knowledgeable players on both rosters. And we believe in his ability to direct a team. He's been a GM before in the RSL, and he's succeeded in that position. And he was great at that. And he's just generally a great guy. He's a good person. He's the type of person you want to play for and play with. So we're really excited to have Doucette here, and we're hoping that his extra development won't take too long, and we can ship him off to a starting role in the LHL, potentially even some point during this season.
Yeah, and we were thrilled to see him not go in the 4th round, and that's part of the reason why, and not in the way that it, like, bad for him, but like either way he gets to be eligible for the RSL again. That's I think he wanted that, so he's happy about it. We're happy about it because he can be part of the development team, and I see him as a starter this season. I was that's part of the reason why I talked about how I was surprised that he didn't go in the 4th round. So he was probably the most likely guy that we thought we weren't going to get when we were looking beyond some of the guys that we wanted to get originally got drafted in the 4th round, and they're off now. Obviously, they're off in the starter position. They don't need to be playing. They're going to get their own opportunities. So Doucette was one of the guys that we thought for sure would be gone. And then on the other side, this player was I've had some experience with. I've had negative experiences with, based on, and it's funny because I've spent some time talking about how LHL GMs don't know who's necessarily good in the RSL, and I actually like kind of chomped after this player when he was a member of the BOC for the RSL, and I kind of like just made assumptions about him, about his character, based on stuff that was going on, and I turned out to be very wrong. And it's kind of ironic, back when I was an LHL GM, I was wrong about this player, and now LHL players continue to be wrong about this player. But I ended up picking him up season 9. He played for Dallas for a little while, and I was very pleasantly surprised with what he was able to do. I don't remember if he made a mistake. He didn't play that much for us. He didn't play that many minutes, but he played. I I picked him up late, and he played very well. Came in very well for us and played a great defensive role. And Austin's going to be really huge for us moving forward. And I have said already on this program that I don't I don't see how he didn't get drafted. It doesn't make sense to me beyond that you see players not GM's not necessarily doing their research. So this guy should be in the LHL. He's not, and so because of that, he's going to be on the dev team. He's going to get that opportunity one way or another.
And I think some people, those are probably going to be two of the, I'm not going to say more questionable ones, but people are going to look at those as two fairly experienced players, and I believe they're going to be the most experienced players in the roster, right, Ralph, in both cases.
Yes, absolutely.
But we were pretty adamant in the fact that we wanted to have some sort of experienced veteran leadership there. And these two guys are really perfect for it because they've been around the game. They've been around the LHL for a while. They've both been in positions of leadership in the RSL. So it really makes them perfect for this, where they're also players that, even though they've been around for a while, they're exploring new roles that they haven't really been like that experienced with in the past in terms of just on the ice play. I mean, we spoke about it. I think Austin is on his second season of defense, and I think this will be Doucette's like second and a half. I don't know how you want to really call that, but we're really excited to have the two of them there because they're going to be the anchors of those two lines, that red team and that blue team, as we were speaking to. So, but shall I keep going? Should I do the first forward?
Yeah, you can go for
All right.
it. Yeah.
Alright, so this will be playing on Doucette's team, which will be the blue team. This is the first forward that we'll announce of the two tonight. The other ones will come tomorrow, but we're really, me specifically, I'm very excited to have this guy on the roster. We believed that there was a chance we might not be able to get him, and I think we're both happy to see where he went, because we think, I think both of us are fine with the round he went, because it puts him in a position where there's not too much expected of him in the LHL yet, so he can still grow and learn and mature in the development team, and it gives him ample time to get ready, and that's BG. So, like I said earlier, we spoke a lot about him when I got to that point in the 6th round where we were discussing our picks, but I'm very, very happy to have him on the team. And it's awesome that I get to have him on the same team in the LHL too, because that means I get to spend extra time with him, helping him to grow and get better as a player. So I'm really, really looking forward to that, and I think he's shown a lot of promise recently in terms of just he's getting better quickly, and he's motivated. He wants it. He really wants it, and he's willing to put in the work that it takes. And that's awesome. So, and we'll throw it over to Dalf for the last player, last forward.
This will wrap it up. We've got this player has a lot of raw skill, but it's just that it's very raw, and we saw him get drafted to the LHL, and he wasn't sure if he was going to get drafted to the LHL, but he did get drafted to the LHL, and then continued on, and he's going to get named to the development team too, and that's the best of both worlds, because if you're not starting for your LHL team, you can get some dev time, and if you're not starting, or after that, then you are also eligible for the RSL. So we'll have to monitor, make sure he doesn't get too burned out, but this guy's tremendous goal scorer, and he does it all himself a lot. Sometimes doesn't even need to do it all himself. He could maybe work with him on that. So that's kind of the raw skill that we're talking about. But and actually, I haven't spoken with this player, so it might be kind of a surprise for him. I know he was wondering if he was going to get in. So this player is Drag. Drag went in the 5th round, and he's going to be on the development team as well. And very excited to work with him and turn him into a player that is efficient, and position himself optimally to where he can turn that what was it, like a 14 goal season in the RSL, something like that, to something that's maybe 20 goals, or and then eventually get into the LHL where he is right now. So excited to work with him on that. Excited to make him. It's really exciting to find players like himself to where he can score. He can score on himself. He can score on himself. He can score by himself. But could use a little bit more in terms of finding, like, once he's got possession and once he's got opportunities, he can step on them, and that's awesome. But we want to be able to work with you on creating those opportunities, being in positions to have more opportunities, and that's gonna be great to make him into a more efficient player, which is kind of what I hit on. So those are the five North American development players, some of the top prospects in the game right now. And these guys are probably going to be the first ones to go when they continue on. And I think at the end of season 10, if we're not moving on to 7 teams, I think that I've failed as coach of the development team. I don't think I've done my job. If these 5 players aren't in the LHL, then I've done something wrong, because these are absolutely some of the top players, and I think all 5 of them were drafted to the OHL. That's correct. 5. Oh, Austin wasn't drafted. I don't know. I forgot that. I've only said it like 10 times. But yeah, I do think all of these players will be in the OHL come next season, and will enable the BOC to expand the OHL, which is great too. So
Yeah, we really want to hit that 8-team mark. That's really what we're looking for. We want to expand to 8 teams, and that's going to be a huge part of what the development team is looking for. I mean, we're hoping that we can cycle players through the season as they start to progress and they're ready to move on. And some players may take longer on the team, and some may take less time. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. As Dalfan said, these are sort of the 5 that we believe are most ready to move on. And the other 5 that we'll get into will come tomorrow night at some point. Alfie, we're going to make just a Reddit post about it with the final roster entirely, or what are you thinking?
yeah, I'll probably do that.
Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So in terms of, I know there were some comments in chat about like who's going to be playing where. So we wanted to, rather than have like a red team and like an A team and a B team, where one is significantly better than the other, we really wanted to stress that these are 2 teams that are going to be running side by side, and because of that, that's why we chose to go with red and blue. They're parallel. There's no one team that's going to be set up to be better than the other, which also means that we're going to be splitting up the talent between them. So Drag, Austin, and Capital Skis will be on the red team with 2 other unnamed players, and BG and Doucette will be on the blue team with 3 other unnamed players. So we're trying to divide up the talent as evenly as possible to get sort of 2 competitive rosters, because it helps to have more experienced players with lesser experienced ones. It helps to have people going through it at various paces, and it helps to have them working together. And as much as it may not seem like it now, those guys like BG and Doucette for Team Blue are going to be instrumental to how the other 3 players on that team wind up developing. And you can say the same thing for the other side. So we're very much looking forward to it. We're really excited about the upcoming games, and very, very much looking forward to making the formal announcement tomorrow. So, and to those listening who are on the development team, remember to check the LHL roster or the LHL schedule, because that's where our development team games are going to be. But we'll get in touch with most of you tomorrow or this weekend at some point to clarify that anyway. So
yeah, and there's going to be an entire subreddit for posting lineups and communicating, and it's all going to be set up very organized. It's not going to be on a game-to-game basis, and it's going to be really exciting to be able to have 2 different teams and to be able to move players back and forth and change up the lines if things aren't working. That's all going to be very exciting, and makes it more feel like actual hockey, which is really cool. And the LHL matches obviously don't start until the regular season. We didn't schedule preseason games versus the North American development team. But we have scheduled 2 matches on Monday and Wednesday versus the RSL. So the dev team will be starting off versus the RSL, and then they'll get moved on to warm up there, and then go to the big leagues and see how we can do. And I think that'll be really good for us getting warmed up to each other, and then from there we'll be able to progress on it and at least play some tight games in against the OHL. And it's nice to see some of these names going in the 5th, 6th, and 7th round that aren't on the dev team, because those are backups that'll get playing time versus our dev team, and it won't be as conflicting. So
the important thing to remember, BG, I'm looking at your comment here, like saying you hope we beat the RSL. It doesn't matter, because it doesn't matter where the team is at right now when we start. That's not really the point. The point isn't how good are we right away. The point is making sure that by the end of the season, all of you guys are in the best position possible to take on LHL responsibilities for LHL season 11. So that's really what we're going for, and there's going to be growing pains with it. I mean, there's going to be a lot of things that you're not used to, a lot of things that we're going to be stressing to you that you wouldn't get from a typical RSL GM. It's going to be a different experience for you, a lot. And also, to answer your questions about when the times are going to be, it's always going to be at 8:30. Every NADT game is going to take place at 8:30 p.m. on Sundays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays. And the way we'll work it with the lines is they'll be rotating in and out of games. So I think, are we going to try and do multiple lines in one game, or are we just going to roll with one line gets a game, and the next line gets the next game, that type of thing?
it'll be game to game, so we won't be asking all 10 players to show up on one night. As a matter of fact, it's going to be I'm going to try and make it more of a intimate thing, to where I can really sit down and examine the play of these 5 guys, and then have that day, or have that entire week rather, to go over their play, and then see the next team's play, and sit down with them, and that way you don't have players battling for ice time. That's a non-issue. Ice time is even, no matter who you are on the dev team, and you don't have backups being distractions in the team speak. It's just a very I don't know, concentrated experience. And the red team will play on Tuesday nights, the blue team will play on Thursday nights, and then you'll alternate for Sundays. So I mean, it's not necessarily going to be a big thing to where the dev team will play 1 game this week, and then the other team will play 2. The red team will play 2 games that week, and then the blue team will play 1. But fortunately, there's going to be that opens up time for those players to. The dev team goes beyond showing up,
wake up.
And getting on the ice and playing against the OHL players, and then getting off the ice and leaving. It goes much deeper than that, and it's going to involve me sitting down with dev players and going over their film, and saying, let's pull up this cut up of your film, and let's watch it together. Let's look at the decisions that you made within this game. And it's going to be a lot deeper than just than squaring up against LHL players, getting whooped a little bit, and then getting off. It's a lot more complex than that. And if it wasn't that complex, then we wouldn't be having success in development. Necessarily wouldn't be happening, and it wouldn't be a positive experience. So it is potentially only 1 game a week for this guy. You only play one game a week with the dev team. So and then the next week you'll play 2. But you have to keep in mind, these players are showing up for the RSL. Maybe they're showing up for the JSL. They're showing up for the LHL teams, serving as a backup. And so to be able to say, nice, I've only got Tuesday to worry about this week, is a really nice thing to be able to relax on. And burnout was a big concern for us, because we already have players who face that issue. And when you have it, like, you've got to overcome the hump of RSL plus LHL in order to make it into the LHL. it's really difficult, and you lose a lot of your players because of that. So we wanted to keep that in mind, and that's why we decided to go with 2 teams. And 2 teams allows us to access more players. It allows us to have inter-team scrims because you have 10 players on the squad. It allows you to have 10 players on the squad rather than 8, which is what we planned before. So then we're having a greater reach on the players. We're getting to work with more players, and it's all positive. It's all pros of having this 2-team structure, and I'm really excited about it. I can't wait. And when you talk about, I hope we beat the RSL team. Yeah, well, I hope we beat the RSL team too. But one of the things that we're really going to stress is it's not about results. It's not about the score. And maybe that is an indicator of how well you're playing. Maybe it is a good feedback to see how ready you are. But it goes a lot deeper than that. And our biggest importance is development, and are we learning every game? Are we learning every week? Are we getting better? And it's going to be split very, very clearly between mentally, are you developing, physically, or rather, in the game, or is your skills getting better? And both those things are going to be stressed, and we're going to get a lot of development from it. And I'm really excited about it. I've said that a few times, but
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to the opportunity as well. Like, this will be hopefully big for us moving forward. We have very, very high expectations of what we're going to be able to achieve with this. So, and quick shout out to Gila for. I'm sorry we couldn't end up getting you. We were really hoping that you would be available to us, and unfortunately that just didn't happen this time. So, but you're in a great situation anyway to learn from. So you're probably not going to need us anyway. So, but yeah, we will announce the rest tomorrow. And thanks to everybody who tuned in to the podcast tonight, and anybody who watches it at some point in the future. I know this was kind of like, we didn't really have a structure to this, so this was all over the place. So I'm sorry if you sat through it listening for something specific. But we'll get back to our more standard order of how we do things probably next week. So, but yeah, thanks to everybody who came on. Thanks to Delphin, and good luck, guys, this season.